Live.
All right. And I am a co-host, correct, Joanne?
Hold on a minute. I'll make you a co-host. Okay, you're all set.
You're muted, Steve.
Steve, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, I got you. Thank you. All right, so welcome to this evening's June 8th City Council meeting 2021. This meeting is being recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning certain gatherings such that an in-person meeting of the council is not possible. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend the meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. Additionally, all votes taken by the city council during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. And if you are watching on a computer or a device, there is a raise hand button that you can press or tap to request to speak. Please use either of these options during all communications or the public hearings to request to speak. I will repeat that numerous times over the meeting tonight, so it should be clear on how to converse with the council during this meeting. In attendance this evening, we have Councilor Pett, Councilor LeBlanc, Councilor Holmgren, Councilor Gilman, Councilor Memhard, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Nolan, and Councilor Cox. Councilor O'Hara will probably be joining us shortly. Also, we have Councilor O'Hara joining us at the moment. Also in attendance this evening, we have our Mayor Taken. We have our, let's see here, I don't see Frank on the call, but we have our Assistant to the CAO, Chris Sicarenza. We have our CFO, John Dunn. We have our Superintendent, Mr. Lummis. We have our General Counsel, Chip Payson. Let's see who else. We have our school committee chair, Jonathan Pope. And let me check the attendees here and make sure we got everybody. I think that is it for attendees. Did I miss anybody? I don't think we did.
Kathy Clancy is on as an attendee.
And we have a school committee person, Kathy Clancy, as an attendee this evening. So before we get going, I want to announce a couple of things. That we do have some severe weather coming through over the next few hours, that if we do lose communications and we lose internet or power, this meeting will be postponed. If we do not have a quorum or we do not have a majority of the city council to participate, if we do come to that situation, we will continue this meeting next Tuesday. We have a special council meeting for the budget, and we will pick up where we left off this meeting during that meeting next week. So just to be clear with everybody that the procedural part of this evening's meeting, that we do have a plan in place. And also, I saw last night on social media that the Cape Ann surfer people are going to be joining this meeting. That matter will not be taken up tonight. So I just don't want you guys to be on the meeting all night long waiting for us to discuss that. That is going to be referred out to Ordinance and Administration, which is next Monday at 6 o'clock. So feel free to join us next Monday at 6 o'clock. So for the surfer people, that you don't have to sit through this meeting, and you have the information that we provided. All right, Madam Clerk, can we have the first order of business, please?
First order of business is oral communications.
Thank you. During the meeting, the public shall have every opportunity at every regularly scheduled meeting to be heard under oral communications on matters not appearing on the agenda. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to city business to appear before the council, state their problem without debate, and the matter will be referred to the proper agency through the office of the mayor. The resident will be notified within 2 weeks prior relative to disposition of same, and a copy shall be forwarded to the city council. Persons speaking under oral communication shall be limited to 3 minutes each, and the council president shall not allow any complaints as to individual performance. So if there are anybody wanting to speak under oral communications, if you're calling on a phone, you can press *9, and if you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raise hand button. So I will bring in our oral communications. Pam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Could we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, PM Steele, 10 Pilots Hill.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I would just like to bring up a couple of things that came to my attention recently. The birth rate has gone way down and is projected to go way down. And I'm thinking that we need to represent all the citizens, and I'm just afraid because we have so many seniors in our community that are going to need the taxpayer money to help them get through the that has to be considered as well. And that the fact that our median average income is not that high, I'm just really worried that we're not going to be able to afford the maintenance of such a large school. Not opposed to a new school, I think.
Okay, Pam, we have that on the agenda this evening.
Oh, sorry,
That's okay.
I'm still figuring everything out.
That's
Thank
okay. I just wanted to remind you, that's all.
Okay, that's fine. I don't mind that at all.
All right, I appreciate it. Anything else, Pam?
No, that's about it.
All right, we appreciate it. Let's see.
Thank
We will be having the public hearing for this later on this evening. If you
Okay.
can speak up then also.
I'll try to hang in there. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, thank you. I'll see you.
Thank you.
All right, and we have Mary Ann. Mary Ann, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Marianne Albert Boucher. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Marianne Albert Boucher, 93 Mount Pleasant Avenue. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that recently the Lanesville Quarry area was granted police detail. And if we're going to give police detail to the quarries, which I think is a great thing, we need to give that same respect to the children in West Gloucester. We need police detail to protect the children on the streets outside West Parish School. Now, we're not talking Webster Street here, so I feel that I can talk about this at oral communication.
Yep.
I went to oral communication at the school committee, last school committee meeting, and I begged. It's been 5 years. That school opened 5 years ago. We still have a problem. The school committee received a very worrisome video of an almost accident. That was the end of the video. This person happened to get in touch with me. I do not even know her, to show me the video. Why? If our school committee is not going to do it, please, I'm asking my city council, I'm asking the people that represent me, the city, the constituents, the residents. If the school committee is not going to do it, I'm asking all of you to step up and take care of it before we have a child hurt. We know there's a problem. The school committee at the meeting even announced and realized they do have a problem. And we're going forward with another one. And we still have issues that we haven't dealt with yet. So please, I really beg of you to do something for the children of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Believe it or not, I think West Parish was maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago. Just so you know, 5 years.
It opened up in 2016, Steve, 5 years ago.
It seems longer.
It's not. I can promise you that.
All right. Anything else, Mary Ann?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Would anybody else like to speak under oral communications? If you are calling in, you can raise your hand. You can press *9. And if you are watching on a device, you raise your hand button. Oral communications, anyone? Going once? Twice? All right, Madam Clerk, we have the next order of business, please.
The next order of business is the consent agenda.
All right, are there any counselors that would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right, and I will remove our, Joanne, you want to maybe help me with this 1 minute? I don't want to close out my email. Our council orders were not put into, actually, hold on one second and I will pull it up. All right, so our council orders on tonight's agenda were mistakenly placed in the applications and petitions heading of the agenda and are not under the council orders and heading. So instead of revising the agenda this evening, I figured I'd pull them off this evening and we can correct that here. So I'm gonna pull the council orders off the agenda this evening and put them into their proper position. All right, is there anybody else that would like to remove anything from the agenda? All right, seeing none. So I move to remove the council orders from applications and petitions and put them in their proper position under council orders heading, and I so move.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and this evening we have, our roll call starts off with Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
All right, Councilor Memhard,
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Councilor Nolan,
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara,
Yes.
Councilor Peck,
yes,
Councilor Cox,
Yes.
Councilor Gilman,
Yes.
Councilor Holmgren,
Yes.
and Councilor LeBlanc, yes. Motion passes on a roll call vote of 9 in favor, 0 opposed. So I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
So moved.
All right.
Sorry.
It's been moved by Councilor Memhard and seconded by Councilor Gilman.
Thank you.
Close enough. All right. Roll call vote. Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor Memhard,
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Nolan,
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara,
Yes.
Councilor Peck,
yes,
Councilor Cox,
Yes.
Councilor Gilman,
Yes.
Councilor Holmgren,
Yes.
and Councilor LeBlanc. Yes, motion passes to accept the amended consent agenda on a roll call vote of 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Madam Clerk, next order of business, please.
Order of business is the Budget and Finance Standing Committee report of June 3rd.
Thank you. I will defer this to our Budget and Finance Chair, Councilor Cox.
I presented a consent agenda. If anybody has any questions or wants to pull anything, please do so now. Seeing none, I move the consent agenda.
Seconded.
All right, the consent agenda, Budget and Finance consent agenda has been moved by Councilor Cox, seconded by Councilor Memhard. Any councilor discussion? Councilor Cox, anything? Okay. Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor Memhard,
Yes.
Councilor Nolan,
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara,
Yes.
Councilor Pat,
yes,
Councilor Cox,
Yes.
Councilor Gilman,
Yes.
Councilor Holmgren,
Yes.
and Councilor LeBlanc, yes. Motion to accept the Budget and Finance unanimous consent agenda passes on a roll call vote of 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Madam Clerk, next order of business, please.
So the Ordinance Administration Committee did not meet due to the holiday, so it would be the committee report of the Planning and Development Committee on June 2nd.
All right, then I will defer this to our Planning and Development Chair, Councilor Gilman.
There are no items to be brought forward, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, next order of business, please.
The first scheduled public hearing 2021-18, the public hearing on the FY22 proposed budget.
All right, so just to give a little insight here, this is the budget, this is the public hearing for the FY 2022 proposed budget. So if anybody would like to speak on this, this is a public hearing this evening. So I will open the public hearing and I will ask if there's anybody that would like to speak in favor or in opposition. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9, or if you are watching on a device or a laptop or on your phone, there is a raise hand button to request to speak. This is for our FY 2022 proposed budget. Public hearing. Anybody would like to speak in opposition or in favor? Just raise your hand and we'll just go right through everybody. All right, we have our first person. Olympia, can you have your name and address for the record, please?
Olympia Palazzola, 57 Weston Avenue, Gloucester, Mass.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions regarding what I read in the newspaper about the budget. I don't know much about it, didn't read the budget or anything, but my question was, it sounds like the budget is more. I don't know if it's 1.9 million more. And then they're also raising our water rate separately, our sewer rate separately. And I'm sure our taxes are going up considerably to fund the school. So why is it put in there separately? Are those items that can't be in the budget that way? And because there's an override, we have no idea what our taxes can go up according to the proposed budget. So I'm confused about that part of it. And maybe you can help me out with understanding why they were put in the paper that way. Thank you.
All right, Olympia, thank you. We'll get to our counselor questions shortly and we'll ask those for you. All right, anybody else that would like to speak in favor or in opposition or have a question about our FY22 budget? You can raise your hand. We have our chairman, Jonathan Pope. Jonathan?
Thank you, Council President. My name is Jonathan Pope. I live at 16 Marble Street in Gloucester. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the city administration, mainly John Dunn and the rest of the administration, the city council, budget and finance chairperson, Melissa Cox, and the other members, Scott Memhard and John McCarthy. This, as well as the superintendent and the school's CFO, Gary Frisch. This, in my 20 years of presenting budgets to the city, has been the smoothest and the most collaborative process that I've ever been involved in. And I'd just like to thank everybody. I urge you to pass this budget. It's a good budget and it's responsible, and it will allow us to move the city forward appropriately, as well as the schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, is anybody else that would like to speak in favor or opposition or have a question? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. Do we have any communications, Madam Clerk?
There are none.
All right, do we have any counselor questions? We do have, I don't know if we should refer this to our budget and finance chair or our CFO for Olympia's questions. I know she brought up a couple of questions. I think now would be probably the proper time to ask those on why they were, the water and sewer were separately. Can we define why they were separately?
So they're enterprise accounts. So that is why they're voted separately. The water and sewer rates are revised annually with the budget. Normally, there's always an increase because there's an increase to our costs to run them. But they're just like any other budget. Community development, legal, our budget, everything is voted by department. So I mean, it's not like it's anything special. It's just they're all the departments are voted line by line, or not line by line, but department by department.
Okay, thank you, Council.
I imagine that John Dunn could probably explain that a lot more technical than I can, but that's
Okay.
The bottom line is that they are their own departments.
Thank you. I think that's enough. She was just asking why they were voted separately. So, but they all get rolled into the budget.
So Council President, if you want, I can go on for about 45 minutes.
How about 45 seconds, John? No. If you want to explain that briefly so Olympia knows why they were separately.
No. So you know, Councilor Cox explained it the same way. So there are, you know, we have the general fund and we have enterprise funds. The enterprise funds operate outside of the general fund. There is a water enterprise fund and a sewer enterprise fund, and we basically devolve the rates based on what has to happen within those funds in order to be able to deliver services.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask the question because Mrs. Palazola had asked it, so this was the time to bring it up. All right, do we have any other councilor questions? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and refer this to our Budget Finance Chair, Councilor Cox.
So we have our next budget meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for any revisits from our review of the budgets. And we always have the revisit meeting after the public hearing in case there's anything that comes up during a public hearing. Tonight, there wasn't anything proposed that needed a revisit through the revisit portion of it, but we as a committee have some things that we're going to look into a little bit more. So that will be handled at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then there will be a separate public hearing, normally after public hearings, or not separate meeting, to go over the motions. Generally, our practice is to make the motions after the public hearing, but because we still have that additional revisit meeting, we find it inappropriate to go over the motions the same night as the public hearing. So we will see you again next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock for about 45 minutes of making motions.
And you're the best at doing it, so we'll get right through it.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, can we have the next order of business, please?
Next order of business.
Did you close the public hearing?
I did.
Okay, sorry, I
Yeah,
missed that part.
Yeah, I closed it and I referred it to you for an explanation.
All right,
So
thank you.
next Tuesday at June 15th, Councilor Cox stated that we will be going through the motions for this budget. All right, Madam Clerk, next order of business, please.
Is public hearing to 2021-19 Special City Council Permit 2021-001, Cross Street number 12, map 50, lot 18, Gloucester zoning ordinance section 2.3.17, conversion to or new multifamily or apartment dwelling 4 to 6 units in the R5 district.
All right, so I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anybody that would like to speak in favor. Please do so now. All right, we have Megan. Megan, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, thank you very much.
And
Sure.
1 second, before we start, we usually give up to 15 minutes for in favor, and then we go back and forth. I don't know if you're going to be able, if you want to take the full 15 minutes or what, but we'll usually go back and forth with the times.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think I'll need the full 15 minutes, but thank you very
Na-
much.
Name and address for the record, please.
Attorney Megan Breaker of Klein Gardner and O'Connor, 96 Middle Street, Gloucester.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I represent the property owners, Catherine Swagger and Joyce McCullough. They came to me originally hoping to just simply sell their property, which they had always believed was a 4-family home. They purchased it back in 1999, and it was their understanding at that time it was a 4-family. However, after entering into negotiations to sell the property last year, it was made aware to them that the property was never appropriately converted from a 3 to 4 family. To give a little bit of a history of the property, in March of 1979, a previous owner received relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals for various variances that they needed in order to convert the property and to construct the 4th unit to go from the 3 to 4 family. I searched the city council records. I was unable to find whether or not they ever actually did go to the city council. And they also never recorded the decision at the Registry of Deeds. So fast forward now, my clients had found this information out. At this point, they're seeking just simply to legitimize the property. Sort of, they're looking at this as more of a clerical error than anything else. I've been very clear all along this process and want to continue to be very clear tonight. They're not making any changes to the existing property. They're not adding anything new. They're not creating an addition. Nothing's going to change to the property. They're simply trying to legitimize its status in order to sell it.
All right. All right, thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor or in opposition? Please raise your hand. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. And if you are watching on a device or a laptop or your computer, you can raise your hand. All right. Anna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mr. LeBlanc. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk.
Name and
I
address for the
represent-
record, please.
Sure. My name is Anna Williams. My mother is sitting next to me. Her name is Philomena Williams. We reside on Cross Street. We are the abutters property. And at the last hearing we were at with you on May 5th, you discussed a letter that would be drafted from the building inspector regarding the water table, the drain, and the driveway concerns that we've had. Because if that building is zoned as a 4-family, which it should have been years ago, those issues will need to be addressed with the parking. So I just wanted to know if that letter was received and what the contents of that letter has.
Okay, Anna. We will try to get that answer for you shortly.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor or in opposition of this application? If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9. If you're watching on a device, your laptop, your phone, there is a raise hand button to request to speak. Please do so now. All right, we have Tracy. Tracy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and address for the record, please.
Tracy O'Neill, 12 Friend Street.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if you said the address of the property. If you did, I missed it. That's all.
Okay. I am not, yes, I think it's number 12, right? Is that correct? Yes.
12 Cross Street.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I just want to be aware of things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. All right, anybody else that would like to speak in favor or in opposition, please do so now. All right, we're gonna go once. In favor and opposition twice. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any communications?
There are none.
And do we have any councilor questions? All right, so we had our first, Anna had spoke about the letter. I'm not sure of the letter. Megan, do we know anything about a letter from the building department?
There was a letter from the building department, yes, and it was read out loud at the last P&D meeting.
Okay.
I'm just looking, I have it here. The memo was from Bill Sanborn, and he simply stated that, similar to what I said, that the special permit application would, that was before P&D was granted zoning relief back in March of '79. He was unable to verify if the applicant had ever completed the process by going forward with the city council. The improvements described in the zoning decision have been completed to a point. An apartment was added and some of the parking was constructed, however, not to plan. At the present time, the property is required to have 4 parking spaces, 1 for each dwelling unit per the ordinance, excuse me. And that was basically the bulk. He did not speak of the letter. He did not speak to the water table issues that the Philomena's daughter brought up. However, it was also discussed at the previous P&D meeting that although the zoning relief the previous owner got required them to pave the parking and to have enough spaces for 6 in the back behind the house, that my clients would probably be discussing with their new buyers whether or not to go forward and get an amended relief from the original zoning relief to change the parking from 4 to 6.
Okay,
Or
thank you,
excuse me,
Megan.
from 6 down to 4.
Thank you, Megan. Do we have any other councilor questions? No, Councilor Nolan?
Sorry about that. So does the actual building meet the requirement for parking or not? It sounds like if they have an issue with parking that isn't up to par with what they're looking for right now, that may be an issue. Off-street parking's at a prime. If it's legally a 3-family, if they don't have enough parking spots, then we need to see an ironclad plan of what the parking spots will be before I could support this to go forward through, and not saying that after we approve this and then they will come up with a plan for parking. I'd like to make sure that there is a parking plan or they have the amount of spots legal for a 4-family, because in 1979, it certainly wasn't our fault that it didn't go through that way. So that would be one question I'd like to have answered.
Counselor Gilman, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to answer this question? Is that,
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I sent this letter to Joanne on this afternoon, and I asked her if this came up, we could upload it and just show the public the letter. The letter was sent by Bill Sanborn. It was quite thorough, and we included in the conditions of the motion the requests that we have as a city council. We actually asked for 2 meetings because of this letter, and the letter was fully vetted, and I was going to address it in the narrative and discuss what my conversation was with Bill Sanborn. And we did talk about this in the P&D meeting, the second one. So I just wanted to answer that.
so parking's up to par?
Yes, well, do you want me to go into it before the narrative?
No, we'll wait till councilor discussion before. These are
Okay.
just councilor questions, so I don't want to put the cart before the horse here.
Okay.
All right, any other councilor questions? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and defer to our Planning and Development Chair, Councilor Gilman.
Thank you, Counselor. On a motion by Counselor Gilman, seconded by Counselor Holgram, the Planning and Development Committee voted by roll call 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council grant to Megan E. Breaker, Esquire, of Klein, Gardner, and O'Connor, PC, on behalf of owners Catherine Swager and Joyce E. McAuliffe, a special council permit 2021-001, for the property located at Cross Street number 12, Assessors Map 50, Lot 80 in the R5 district, pursuant to GZO Section 2.3.17, conversion to or new family, multifamily, or apartment dwelling, 4 to 6 dwelling units for a 4th dwelling unit. This permit is made on the basis of plans and elevations dated February 23rd, 2021, and submitted to the city clerk on April 13th, 2021, entitled Zoning Board of Appeals Plan and Floor Plans for 12 Cross Street, Gloucester, with a condition: if this is modified to fewer than 6 parking spaces, it is referred to the Zoning Board of Appeals for proper approval. Subject to new information and or debate that results from the public hearing, this special council permit is deemed to be in harmony with the intent and the purpose of the zoning ordinance, and I so move.
Second.
Been made by Councilor Gilman, seconded by Councilor Holmgren. Councilor Gilman, any discussion?
Great. So the narrative is, at our May 5th P&D meeting, Attorney Breaker was clear that there were no planned structural changes to the 12 Cross Street location. The former owners in 1979 received variances to get relief to cover the property to convert the property from a 3 to 4 family home. It then went before council, but it was not recorded at the Registry of Deeds. The owners wished to remedy this clerical error to sell the property. On the ZBA's decision in 1979, it was noted that the parking required 6 spots. Instead, there's 1 spot out front and 5 out back. P&D requested an approval from the building commissioner and postponed our vote until receiving this. On May 19th, we received our requested letter from Bill Sanborn. And we modified our vote with a condition: if these parking spots were modified to fewer than 6, it would need to go back to ZBA for approval. And we have a copy of that letter if you wish to read it. And Bill Sanborn actually proofread our motion that night to make sure the wording was acceptable. And we did talk about the water issue, and Bill Sanborn said that that is all taken into consideration in terms of normal permitting when any types of measures are taken to remedy a parking and change that. So that's part of the normal process, and he didn't feel like we needed to take anything on our permit to acknowledge that, except to let the public know that that is our protocol. So I hope that's helpful, and I wanted to take a moment to thank Megan Breaker, Attorney Breaker. She was last on the agenda for 2 of the longest meetings I think we've ever had in P&D, and she was a trooper. She was professional, and at the end of the meeting, we were very, very grateful. So it's really nice to work with an applicant that is that pleasant and understanding. So just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Val. Any other council or discussion? Council Holmgren.
I was happy to sink my teeth into this. It was a fascinating experience. Megan, echoing Councillor Gilman, you really did your homework, and I appreciate it. To do this, to help clean it up.
Thank you, Jen. We lost you for a split second, a little glitch there, so that's all right. We got the flavor of your thoughts. Any other council or discussion? All right, seeing none, I will call for the roll.
Counselor Pett has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Pett.
No problem. I just wanted to echo what Councilor Gilman and Councilor Holmgren had said about Megan doing the due diligence to go back through this history. It's challenging, like Councilor Nolan had said, you know, we don't know what happened, or we're not responsible for what happened, say 20 or in this case 40 years ago. But I want to appreciate her going through it all and working with the building inspector and everyone to get this squared away, and let her know there may be some room on the City Archives Committee if you want to volunteer to go do that at some point. But thank you, Megan.
Attaboy, Barry. Recruit. All right. Any other council discussion? All right, seeing none, I will call for the roll call. Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Memhard.
Yes.
Councilor Nolan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Pat.
Yes.
Councilor Cox.
Yes.
Councilor Gilman.
Yes.
Councilor Holmgren.
Yes.
And myself, Councilor LeBlanc, yes. Motion passes on a roll call vote of 9 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, Megan, thank you. We appreciate your patience and being with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too. All right, Madam Clerk, can we have the next order of business, please?
Next order of business is public hearing 2021-20, special city council permit 2021, number 2, Webster Street, number 11, map 47, lot 13, Gloucester zoning ordinance, section 1.1.6, parentheses B, for building heights in excess of 3.2 limits and building heights in excess of 35 feet in the R20 district.
All right, so set up some standards, some rules here. We will give the proponent 15 minutes. We will give the opposition 15 minutes. We will give anybody that would like to speak in favor or in opposition after this up to 3 minutes. If it gets repetitive, the same thing over and over again, we'll ask to cut it back just a little bit. And we will have our rebuttal, and then we will go on with the public hearing for questions and so forth, just so everybody knows. So I will open the public hearing, and also we're speaking about the height only this evening. If you're going to speak about traffic or anything else that goes along with this special permit, I'm going to ask you to refrain from bringing up anything. This is height only, just so everybody knows. All right, so I will open the public hearing and ask if there is anybody that would like to speak in favor. Chairman Pope.
Thank you, Council President. We're here tonight to make the case for the special permit for the city in regards to height for the new school. The school has been in the process of being planned and built since basically since 2014, but in 2016, we submitted a statement of interest in MSBA. We were accepted. When we were accepted, as one of 18 school buildings out of 85 that they had applied that year, which meant we were very deserving of needing a new school. That being said, we went through quite a process. We started the building committee, we hired designers, we hired OPM. We proceeded to hire a contractor at risk. We've gone through any number of MSBA requirements to get to this point, but the important one is that in 2020, in July of 2020, we submitted a schematic design, and the schematic design was accepted by MSBA. And this is a picture that you're looking at right now of the elevation from Webster Street of the design of the building that was submitted in July of 2020. Now that design has not changed. That height of that building, this is the building now. And as you can see, the only real change is on some of the paneling is a little different. There's a few windows added, and but the mass of the building is the same. The height of the building is the same. This building was, the 2020 was voted on by the school building committee. It was voted on by the school committee. And it was, this was the building that the city council agreed to put on the ballot last November. And it is the building that the citizens of Gloucester voted to fund. This is the building that when John Dunn came before the city council and you voted to authorize the loan, this is the same building. So this building has been vetted a number of times, and the height has not changed. Now, in the permitting process, we don't start the permitting process until we have a project in front of us. So we did not start trying to get permits for this building until it was approved by the citizens of Gloucester, and subsequently the money was appropriated by the city council. There's a chart in front of you right now that basically shows the conditions of the R20 area. And the existing building met all the requirements with the exception that it was non-conforming for the front yard setback. It's only 19 feet 4 inches from Webster Street to the building. It will now be 120, the new building will be 124 feet 10 inches from the Webster Street. And I point that out because it's relative to the height, and it's relative to the perception of height. Because when you're standing right next to something, it seems a lot taller than when it's 124 feet back. So what we're asking for is a special council permit to build a building that is 56 feet 6 inches above the average grade, the existing average grade. Now, the existing average grade will be brought up by basically 2.5 feet. So it'll really be 54 feet above the finished grade of the project. So we will go through some of the issues here, but we're here to speak to the special permit. And we will address those items that are relevant to the special permit, which is the height, consistent with the neighborhood character, and not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of obstruction of views, overshadowing of properties, impairment of utilities, or other adverse effects. That's the city ordinance regarding special permits, and this is what we'll stick to. So I'm going to now turn it over to Superintendent Lummis, who will go through some of these issues, or all of these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Thank you, city councilors. So I'll go through really explaining about the building and the heights to it, and also help you understand how it fits into the neighborhood. You've seen a more extensive presentation that was shared with the P&D last week. That's available to you, but I'll go through sort of summarize some of the big things. Well, the first part here is just the process so far we've gone through 3 P&D subcommittee meetings. Councilor Gilman and her subcommittee did a fantastic job of organizing site visits, both for city councilors and then also for the members of the public. They gathered a tremendous number of questions, and all those that were submitted to P&D or those that were requests during site visits by members of the public were all answered a week ago at the P&D meeting with extensive detail. As you probably know, the subcommittee voted 3-0 in favor of bringing it to the full city council. And of course, we're here today. So my role here is to share some of the details here. What you see in front of you is simply a bird's eye view of the site plan. What it shows is that the elevation of the finished floor will be 48 feet. We do need to level out the site some because it is sort of has a grade to it. But you'll also see that the building is set back, as Mr. Pope said, quite a bit of ways from where the current building is. In terms of the height of the building, so it's massed in different groupings to break up the facade and also to minimize sort of the impact of the building and the massing. So you have the academic wing to the left, which is at 46 feet above the new grade. You have the media center, which is really the front entrance, around the front entrance in the front of the building at 40 feet. You have the gymnasium and the double height of the gymnasium at 48 feet. And then you have the clear story, which is really the connecting the front to the rear of the building. It is an open and well lit through daylighting feature that brings light into the center of the building, as well as the classrooms, administrative offices, gymnasium, and the main hallway areas. So that one part there that's outlined in orange is the only part that it's at 54 feet above the grade. Moving on, so what you see here are from the looking across the bus loop. What you see is the main academic building at 46, and then the media center, which is the white with colored tiles at 40 feet. So just a different look at that, just so you understand that the main academic wing height is at 46. You can see peeking over the media center, the clear story height. That, of course, is the highest part of the building. At 54 feet. Moving on, just again, another angle on this from Webster Street, the front entrance for cars anyway. On the right-hand side, you see 48 feet. That's of the gymnasium, as I mentioned before. Again, the 54 feet of the clear story. And then off to the left, the media center again, and then further left, the academic wing at 46 feet. So I just want to show you, now we want to go into the rest of the neighborhood. And so just below on Eastern Avenue, bordering the school, is a 4-story apartment building at 46 feet. Remember, we were talking earlier about 40 feet, 48 feet, and then one small portion of the new school at 54 feet. So those are comparable heights in terms of the buildings. It is important to realize that, as you know, Webster Street is angled uphill. So these buildings are at different, follow, of course, the topography of that hill, of the street areas. And so they're actually at different heights in terms of where their ground level is, but we'll show you that they're comparable heights, not only with this building here, but also with other buildings as well as we go forward. So what you have here is you have we're looking up Webster Avenue, and you see a few different buildings here. They are at various elevations, ranging from various heights from 36 feet and also 30 feet as well. But they're also at different grades. So the house up the hill there at the sort of light greenhouse is at elevation of 53 feet. And that's really bringing that building up to about 80, about in the 85 area of height as well. And then this building as well, 36 feet. And that elevation is at about 40 feet. So about 76 feet or 76 feet or so for that of elevation for that building. So you can see these are 3-story buildings along Webster across the street. These buildings will be will have a greater distance between them and the school building because the school building is set back, and that'll help decrease the impact on views and also give a sense that the building is set back and set down below them. Moving up Webster Street, we see a 4-story house, apartment building. This is at 50. This is a 50-foot high structure, and it's located quite a ways up the hill there. It starts at an elevation of 60, so all told 110 feet on that one. And also we have a view for you here, sort of a cut view where you can see comparing that same building we just saw. It's at 110 feet in terms of height, whereas the building, although it's 54 feet in height, at its highest point, it's set down below that building, which is across the way from it. So again, trying to fit this larger building. It is larger than the current building. We've increased the height for a variety of reasons. Of course, it is a bigger school, but the increased height allows us to make sure there are a number of playgrounds on the site, and also it helps us get traffic and parking off of the neighborhood streets by making the building a little bit higher. We have room for additional parking, additional arrival and dismissal loops, and that will help us with the minimize the impact of traffic and during those short times of arrival and dismissal during the day. This is a view of what this apartment building house would see from Webster Street, from the 1st-story window, looking over and towards the school. Again, school is set back quite a ways from the street at this point, but you can see the what they would be looking at in terms of their view. It's a different view than they have today, certainly, without a doubt. But we would say it's not an obstructed view. It's a view that has hundreds of feet, literally, from where they are to the building. A couple other pieces that we showed in detail at P&D and are able to show you if you choose tonight. So the other part of 3.1.6, so the impact of shadows and also utilities. We presented a full shadow study at P&D last week, and that showed very clearly that regardless of the time of the year, there's no impact on existing houses of the shadows. And that's because the just where it is positioned to the existing structures, and also the fact that it's down below them. And it does cast some shadows on existing trees, and a little bit maybe perhaps heading towards the highway, but that isn't impacting the neighbors. And then also the utilities, existing utilities is another piece of 3.1.6. And as you can see here, the existing utilities will not be impacted by the height of the new building. The power lines and that go to the building will be replaced and put underground, so we'll actually be eliminating those. And then another piece of that is stormwater management. Right now, there's very little management of stormwater, so that'll be improved, and we'll have to meet DEP requirements as well. So just one last slide. As folks know, and we mentioned earlier, actually haven't mentioned yet, just the importance of this new school building. As folks have heard time and again, the two buildings it's replacing, Veterans and East Gloucester, are 60, 70 years old. They are out of date, worn out, and really failing at this point. Going forward with this facility would have a really positive impact in a variety of ways, not only for the local community, but the greater community. We'll be able to, first of all, create a modern and it's just fantastic facility for our students and our educators and their families, but also be able to increase open space in the city and other amenities that'll be open to community within the building. And the special permit, of course, would allow the much needed school project to move forward and allow us to fill those various educational community needs with a much more modern school building that will last for 50, 60, perhaps more years than that. It was nice today. We opened the time capsule from the Veterans Building today, and we saw newspapers from the 1958, and it was really remarkable to see those and see the opening of the building and what was going on in Gloucester and the world then. But it also is a good reminder that this building and East Gloucester are well past their useful life, and time to keep going with the process and make sure we're providing for our community, our families, and our students going forward.
Could I just add one little thing about opening of the Times capsule? One of the items that was in that was the roster of the first class of students that was in the veterans. It was called Ward 2 at the time. It was renamed Veterans later. There were 338 students in that building, and that was before we added the modulars. So.
Awesome. And it looked like parking was still an issue back then.
Probably not. They probably all walked.
All right. So we did go over a couple of minutes, so I'm going to offer that couple of minutes to the opponents also, if they do wish so. And so that concludes our major part of the in favor. And I will ask if there is anybody that would like to speak in opposition. And I know that we usually try to get somebody that wants to be a lead speaker. So if there's anybody that in attendance that would like to speak in opposition to this, that would like to take up the majority of the time, please raise your hand. I see Patty, and she's one of the main people on this, so I will refer out to Patty. Patty, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right. And before we start, do you have anybody else that will follow you for the lead presentation for in opposition, or is it just going to be you?
I don't think so. I think I'm doing this and then the rebuttal. So.
Okay. All right. So go right ahead, Patty. And you got a little more than 15 minutes, give or take. So.
Okay. And I just wanted to reiterate was just talked about, that it wasn't just about the height. So let's move on to that. Okay. Hello. My name is Patty Amaral. My address is 14 Myrtle Square. I want to thank the City Council for the opportunity to speak at this meeting tonight. As we all know, this is a critical vote for an extremely important project in our city. I want to thank Councilor Val Gilman for emailing the 3.1.6B special permit ordinance and would like to clarify its contents as follows. Building heights in excess of 35 feet may be authorized by special permit issued by City Council. Said permit shall contain such conditions as the council deems necessary and shall only be issued upon a written determination by the council that such increase in allowable height is consistent with the neighborhood character and will not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of the obstruction of views, overshadowing of other properties, impairment of utilities, and other adverse impacts. We are here today to discuss and vote on Gloucester's 3.1.6B city ordinance. As we all know, the vote tonight is for a special height permit. It is a fact that Webster Street is zoned at 30 feet, and the application the city has filed is asking for 56.5 feet. This is an increase of almost 100%. This building is huge. Is the allowable height consistent with the neighborhood character? Webster Street is a densely populated neighborhood and has many sizes and shapes of building, some residential and some not. This neighborhood, along with its multifamily apartments, also has many single-family homes, making up its neighborhood. These residents will most definitely see a difference of their everyday living. This building is just huge. Will this school building stand at 56.5 feet obstruct views? We believe that a building of this size cannot help but obstruct many neighbors' views. As we stated before, Many homes are single family as well as multifamily. And even the highest building, standing over 50 feet, which we're not sure of yet, will not see the views they are seeing now, as this building will tower over them as well. Again, this building is huge. The shadow study was presented at the Planning and Development meeting the same night they voted on it. We believe that the residents that live there have a right to see this shadow study and have more detail in it that has been presented. What is good for one neighborhood should be good for all. Will this school building impair utilities? The addition of 220 to total 440 students plus 80 staff will exponentially increase the water consumption, impacting the supply to the neighborhood. Adding this many students to this building may overload the existing sewer infrastructure. Our rates did go up again. This could have a severe impact to the fragile ecosystem in that area. Salt marshes, which is very important to our economy. This new building will have a significant increase in power consumption as well, taxing the antiquated grid for the area. What other adverse impacts are there with this school building? Let's think. Green space. Loss of Mados Field Playground will take away the freedom of play for the children on Webster Street, the neighborhood, and the entire community. Taking away this open green space reduces our recreational areas and ball fields once again. 2 minus 1 equals Mount 1. We know this. Our children deserve more than a 60 by 90 fenced and artificial turf area. Traffic. Our traffic commissioner, Bob Ryan, has spoken many times on the traffic in Easton Ave, 128 in Webster Street neighborhood, and he has included that the traffic that will be generated by this consolidated school will have an extraordinary amount of residual traffic, even to the point, if the traffic is laid out, it will reach the Rockport line.
Patty,
In a 4-minute statement, he stated he does not agree that this is a place for this consolidated school. He also stated that you may be able to mitigate within the school project, but you cannot mitigate the traffic on 128 Highway or Easton Ave. Safety will definitely be compromised. Webster Street also hosts the private Gloucester Fraternity Club and also PMS Machine Factory. Both of these businesses create a constant stream of traffic, including large trailer trucks that are constantly delivering on Webster Street. The increased traffic will be additional safety hazards added to these daily deliveries. Niche Engineering, Doran Whittier traffic consultant, also shows that the traffic will be doubled with no answer or remedy for the traffic that we generated.
Point of order.
Drop off and pick
Point
up.
of order. Mr. President, point of order.
Other than some possible
The
ideas that may
traffic-
not relevant.
Patty,
Father,
Patty.
90
Traffic has to do with the height.
Patty,
Building.
yeah.
Okay, I would like, it will be a huge building. Okay, we saw that said 100 times. Okay, I would like to ask each of the city councilors to think about all the listed criteria for casting your vote. Yes, you are voting for a height permit, and the criteria has to be seriously taken into consideration before casting your vote. As we saw and heard, we just heard from everybody else who just talked before me. There are issues with this, and we all know it. Do not repeat what we did at West Parish. Do not repeat it. You know, don't think about the money that's wasted. Think about the money you're going to save the taxpayers, because this project, we know, should not be in that neighborhood. Thank you very much.
All right, Patty, thank you. All right, so we have the main speakers for the proponent and the opponent, and I am going to hand it over to the in favor and opposition for the public now. So if you would like to speak in favor or in opposition, please raise your hand, so that way we can go through everybody all at once and not ask who's in favor or who's in opposition, and raise your hand at that time. So if you'd like to speak on this matter, raise your hand now. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9. If you are watching on a device or a computer or a laptop or whatever you're watching it on, there's a raise hand button. So raise your hand now, and when I call on you, you can speak, and you can explain whether you are in favor or in opposition. I will allow up to 3 minutes. Let's try not to get repetitive with the everything. I do have a little sign. I will be keeping track of the time. So if you want to look up while you are speaking, I will hold up a 1 minute sign, and that means you've got 1 minute left on your time. So just so we're clear, and I will open it up to Anybody that would like to speak in favor or in opposition? So we have our former president, council president, Paul Lundberg. Paul, can you hear me?
I can, Steve. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And it's awfully good to see all of you, even though it's not in person. And thanks for holding this hearing. So I'd just like to be very brief.
Hold on, before we start, name and address for the record, sir.
All right, Paul Lundberg, 5 Bridgewater Street in Gloucester.
Thank you. Go ahead.
As we all know, the city council has had to consider various aspects of the school project over the last year. In fact, at least 4 or 5 times, you've had aspects of the project to vote upon. Each one of those aspects has been very specific to a step in the process that has brought us to this point. You know, the council considered the transfer of Mados Field to the school committee, the Article 97 matter to the state legislature, the language for the ballot initiative and the loan order and so forth. And each time you guys did a great job in considering what the ordinance or what the matter before you was. Of course, as we all know, the school has a tremendous impact on many aspects of our life. And, you know, I'll just say for me, I'm just very excited that we've made it this far. It's a great project. But having said that, you know, 3.1.6B, the building in excess of 35 feet, as Patty pointed out, has very specific things for you to consider. The neighborhood character, the obstruction of views, overshadowing utilities, and so forth. I think the thing that strikes me most about those considerations is that you know, it is consistent with the neighborhood character. There's been a school there for 60 years. There'll be a school there going forward. The thing about the views and the shadowing, you know, the school site itself is slightly below Webster Street at the beginning, and Webster Street goes up while the site stays the same. So, you know, yes, there will be a change of views, but not an obstruction of views. And the shadows, of course, go the other way away from Webster Street. So on those kinds of things, and the presentation that Ben made, you know, outlined those. And I would just encourage you to, when you come to your vote, to think about those things. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Again, thank you all for serving on the city council, and good seeing you again.
Same here, Paul. Thank you. All right. Up next, we have Ben. Ben, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Ben Blanchard. I'm at 14 Webster Street. I wish that we were presented the current view of the school as it now stands, because there's absolutely no view when this school is being built, no view of the existing trees behind the building. There will be a total obstruction of views, which I think will have a detrimental impact on the health, emotional health of people being in a congested area. I am for schools and higher education, but I'm concerned about my concern is the neighborhood and the kids in my neighborhood and my kids. And to compare, you know, to compare a 30-foot building with this height, the height of this building we have to consider the width of these buildings all around here. The biggest width is 30 to 35 feet. This building is going to go up to 46 to 53 feet, and it's going to be about 226 feet wide. That's a massive wall. It looks like a community college. So there's absolutely going to be obstruction of views to the green. It's going to be detrimental to our neighborhood. We're not talking about, I'm all for local community and the kids in the greater community, but I'm talking about my neighborhood and the kids in my neighborhood. That green space is used almost every night. Every night it's being used right now. My concern is the health of the habitat. I think it's going to be detrimental. And to compare the height of that building at the foot of the hill to this building is I don't believe it's comparable. I'm hoping that you guys will consider this height as being a monster height, and it is going to block all the only green space that we have in our condensed neighborhood. I think that just one other point I want to bring up is that the citizens of Gloucester has barely approved this. And I believe that the ballot question was confusing. And that's all I want to say. So I thank you for hearing me, and please consider my neighborhood and my views that we're all losing. It's the only green space that we have in this congested neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. All right, up next, we have Ms. Palazola. Olympia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Name and address, please.
Olympia Palazola, 57 Western Avenue, Gloucester, Mass.
Thank you.
The height of this building and the weight of this building, how is this going to be affected when they put pipes underneath the fill that's going to be in there? I mean, that's a heavy, big building, and I know the pipes are supposedly going to take the water down through that area. Has anyone talked to the Conservation Commission yet about that part of the thing and what you're voting for? The second thing is that, you know, I didn't realize that each story was going to be 14, 14, and then 16 feet. You know, they could have almost lowered that height by probably 4 feet on each floor and not raised it so high. There are things that they could have done way back when. And like the man that just spoke before, the vote was taken way before any of this stuff came up. This is kind of amazing to me that now we're into the real nitty gritty of this building, and people are scared of how big this is. The neighborhood, the height for the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is mostly renters, and these neighbors are scared to death to speak. And a lot of them don't even have a computer. So unless you live in that neighborhood, and none of you do, you are ruining a small neighborhood that was always used. The traffic's going to be incredible, which I know I can't talk about, but the height of this thing doesn't make any sense. I wish you guys would think twice, 3 times, 4 times. Yes, we need a school. No one's denying that. But think about how big and where it is. All the pictures that I saw with all the things that I watched. I mean, just the entrance where these kids go inside and they go up a staircase that looked like kind of a glass staircase is tall for little kids. You know, they're going to be going into a school that should be built for older children. So I still am amazed by what I've seen by this height. The other thing is they showed pictures, of the cafeteria having a floor to ceiling glass wall. Are we hiring people to bring in some kind of bucket truck to go clean the inside of these windows? There's no way that the janitors can go in. And there's the height. And along with the height, they keep saying it's so energy efficient. Well, heat rises. And these are the little children that are going to be in that school. So with all of this height figures that we're talking about, I just can't imagine that you really, really are in favor of this. It's beautiful. It doesn't belong on that street. But if there was another location, hold off and put it someplace else. This isn't making any sense to most people I've talked to. But these people won't get out and speak. They're scared to death of speaking. So I just can't imagine that you're for the height of this building being so big in a small neighborhood. So other than that, I know Jonathan said if they don't build the school right now, they've already spent $4 million and $20,000 per month. They've already rented the school, the St. Anne's School, and it's not approved yet. As far as I'm concerned, it's not approved yet. So are we in the bag for 2 years worth of $20,000 a month without it being approved yet? So I mean, think about some of the things that have gone past this. Yes, you're approving the height. I know you had to walk down and, you know, people, I can't say they felt good about the walk around. So there's a lot going on with this property that,
Well,
you know,
Olympia,
think.
we're up around 4 minutes. I figured I'd give you a little bit more time because,
Okay. I'm done, but Joe wanted to say a couple of words. Can he do that with his own name
you
without getting
can,
off?
sure can. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Name and address for the record, Joe.
Joe Palazzola, 57 Western Avenue.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Now, first thing you want me to talk about the height, I'll put it simple. It's too big for the neighborhood. If it was all right, if that was all right, why didn't it go in East Gloucester? Okay, because it's not in my neighborhood. You don't want it in your neighborhood, but you want it in somebody else's neighborhood. Okay, we got a police chief, former police chief there that knows what the traffic situation is in. And so, I mean, you gotta think, you know, Mr. Pope says, well, we'll waste 4,000. Well,
4 million.
That's okay, 4 million rather. And so you're gonna say, oh, that's all right, but we're gonna spend 67 million.
Go back to the drawing board.
So anyway,
Go back to the drawing board.
but yeah, go back to the drawing board. Well, if you pass this, I'm gonna say one thing, other than Mike O'Hara, Councilor O'Hara, you guys will be known for ruining a community, okay? So it'll be in your record down the road.
And thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
guys. Appreciate it. All right, up next, we have Tracy. Tracy, welcome back. Can you hear me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, name and address for the record, please.
Tracy O'Neill, 12 Friend Street.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I do live in the neighborhood. And I drive by that school multiple times a day. My business is at 214 Eastern Ave, which is the building that's just beyond the Common Crow. So I drive Friend Street to Webster Street to Eastern Avenue multiple times a day. I'm wondering how many of you people do it, because Eastern Avenue traffic is very busy. I've walked to work for the exercise. It's a dangerous walk, and the sidewalks are no good either. So sorry, this is about height. So in one of the pictures or schematics, I was at a P&D meeting last week. I was at 2 meetings last week. The first meeting, Michelle from Durham Whittier was there, and I asked her if the property, if you're not going to touch the hill, right, the hill going down to the field and to the school, then why does this schematic show a blue fence all the way to Webster Street with a cutout for 6 cars? So you're gonna cut the parking down from 10 to 6. That's okay, I don't care. But if you're not going, the pictures that I see show the school in the fake turf level with Webster Street. So I am of the belief that you're gonna fill it all the way to Webster Street. So forget that hill, because the pictures that you're showing show the school and the bus thing and the fence all the way up to Webster Street, because it has a cutout for the cars that park at the top of Webster Street. So if that's not true, so if that is true, you gotta put 56.5 feet higher than Webster Street, then higher than that. I don't know how high that hill is. Was it 10, 12, 15 feet? So it's gonna be that much higher than Webster Street. So it's not gonna be down in that hollow. It's gonna be level with Webster Street. Your pictures show it. So I don't know how, does anyone know how high that hill is? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, Tracy.
Okay,
We're almost at 3 minutes, just so you know.
all right. Did you hear everything I asked?
I did. I don't know the answer to that.
All right, so no one knows how high that hill is, but the pictures, so I asked Michelle at Durham Whittier, why is that the case? If you have that blue fence and you got the cutout for the cars, if you're not gonna touch the hill, then why do you have it showing that you're filling in the hill? So you would have to take the height of the hill. I don't know how high that hill is. I have no idea. And add the 56.5 feet to that. So that's one thing. I don't know how you're gonna put power lines underground when there's a pond there, but that's, I'm not an engineer.
Tracy, we're at almost 4 minutes.
Okay, and adverse effects to the neighborhood, pollution. I'm gonna have cars, it's a half a mile from the school to Destino's. It's a half a mile from the school to Flanagan's gas station. I'm gonna have cars sitting out in front of my house, running the engine, and there's gonna be no trees around because you're gonna cut them all down. We all know that. And so pollution and adverse effects of the neighborhood is very bad health. So thanks for listening. Please truly consider that Durham Whittier is gonna fill that property up to the street level.
All right, Tracy, I'm gonna ask you to wrap it up. We're at 4.5 minutes. I'm trying
Okay.
to be lenient with everybody because I
Thank you.
know the school took a little bit more time, and I'm just trying to give it back a little bit and not be so stringent on the 3 minutes with you guys. So I'm trying to give everybody a little bit extra time because Patty spoke and she didn't take her full 15 minutes, and I'm just trying to be equal with everybody. All right, up next we have Sue. I can't get Sue on because they want me to promote her as a panelist. All right, so hold on, Sue, before we get to you, because if I promote you as a panelist, I'm not going to be able to take you out as a panelist until, if I do, I will kick you out of the meeting completely. So if you have another means of calling in to speak, and all I see is your name is Sue, you're going to have to, because if I promote you to a panelist, and I disable your talking after, it's going to bump you off, and I don't want to do that. So I'll circle back to you at the end. If you got another means of trying to get into the meeting, possibly on a phone, might be easier. But I will circle back to you last. If I got to promote you to a panelist at that point, I will. But just so you know that it's not allowing me to let you speak unless I promote you. All right, up next we have Denise. Denise, can you hear me?
Hello, yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
Denise Piscucci, 20 Birch Grove Heights.
Go ahead.
First, I want to ask you, Councilor LeBlanc, is why you're restricting any traffic issues?
Because that's not in the application this evening. It's for height only.
Well, the 3.1.6B has a criteria that all of you should be looking into to have your vote on the height. So am I not correct? Because if I read the 3.16B, you have all these other listings, which actually,
But we have to refer those to the height, not the traffic, not the safety, not the water. All these questions under 3.1.6B are for the height. So
right.
You asked a question, so when we vote, we have to take in consideration of those standards for the height.
Okay, so what do you allow under adverse impact? That is going to be a part of this huge building. So I guess I'm confused at that, but anyway, I'll let that go only because, you know what, I think there's a lot of things that we should be able to speak about because it isn't an ordinance of the city. But I want to go back to what Ben. No, I met Ben on the street one day when they were doing some of the site inspections there, and he has a house that's probably 20 feet high. And I feel for him because he has a house that he looks over this school because it's only one level. He sees beautiful green. I know it turns in the foliage. So he does have a view from his house. Also, the Palazzola house is 30 feet. So they're going to lose their view. And to the left of that, there's another small house that's probably 20, 25 feet. So I beg to differ from all of you that said that they won't lose a view. You know what? You should go stand in front of the houses and take a look. because that's what's gonna happen. So I feel really bad for that. Also, we were talking about the height of this building, what is actually gonna be on top of this building. So the building is 56.5 is your application. What is not part of that application is what they're gonna put on top of that building. So as far as, I don't know if they're air conditioning, whatever kind of units, those I was told are gonna be between 4 and 6 feet high. So now you're talking about 56 plus you're gonna add all these other units on top of this building. So now you're talking 60 feet. So consider the thought that you have this huge building that you want to have an exception for the height where it's zoned for 30 feet, but now you want 56 as far as what is written on the permit, but it's going to be over 60 feet high. Are any of you understanding that that is extremely high? So this height, you're not asking really on paper, it's 56.5, but you're going to have other things on top of that building. So I hope you think about that because this is huge. And just quoting Val Gilman from the marina, it's just a huge building. I think that's a very good thing to think about, is that the P&D voted all of you about the view for the people in the neighborhood and that it is a huge building. That has to be important that you understand. If you vote for this, you are voting for a huge building in a small neighborhood zoned at 30 feet. So I hope you think about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise. All right, up next, we have Pete. Pete, can you hear me? Hello, Peter.
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Pete Wright. I live at 12 Mystic Avenue.
Go ahead.
I'd like to speak on the, first of all, we're looking at a double, we're going from 56.5 to 30. From, in the original ordinance is 30 feet, correct? You can't build more than 30, you're not supposed to build more than 30 feet. We're shooting for 56.5. Now, the houses are across the street, which now their view is a field, and after the field is trees. Now, that's the view. That's the view that the neighbors are looking at now. Now you put a school 40 feet. It doesn't make a difference. It's right across the street or 40 feet in. If there's a 50-foot tree behind there, you're not going to see the tree no more. So how Mr. Loomis can say it's not an obstructed view, I don't understand. Their view now is a field and trees. That's the view for the neighbors that have been there for years. And I think you guys should think about the neighborhood. I think this neighborhood has been really beat up quite a bit. And I understand this goes back 20 years. I feel bad for the people in this neighborhood for what the city has done to them. Now, I would appreciate you guys to give the neighbors some thought before you vote. And it's just wrong what you're doing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, up next, we have Kathy. Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Kathy Roberts, 12 Lendall Street.
Go ahead.
Okay, and I have to say that I'm in opposition to the school building and its height. And the fact that the size of the building will be taking away Mados Field, which is used every single night. And I just don't know how we can replace that. And I agree with what Patty Emerald said, so I don't want to reiterate everything she said, but I do agree with a lot of what she said, and that's it.
All righty, thank you, Kathy. All right, up next we have Aria. Aria, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Aria McElhenney, 19 Allen Street.
Go ahead.
I'm going to keep it quick because I'm driving right now, but it was really important to me to comment on this because I care very much about this project. I'm 100% behind this school building. I think it's extremely important for every child in Gloucester that they get the education and the space that they deserve in a school building that meets their needs, and for our teachers as well. So I strongly urge our council tonight to vote in favor of this so that this project can move forward. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening to everyone. I care so much about this city and about this neighborhood and about our kids. And I think I appreciate what everyone's saying. Let's think about the neighborhood. And I would ask that let's think about the children of this neighborhood as well, and that they deserve to have this school. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Ari, and be careful, please. All right, up next we have Pam. Pam, can you hear me?
Yes, I figured out how to talk legally.
Name and address for the record, please.
Pam Steele, 10 Pilots Hill. The
Right.
height is going to affect the diversity of the city because the annual incomes are not that high. If you look online, it's kind of surprising. The college educated rate is low. There's a lot more elderly in Gloucester than the statewide average. Can we afford to maintain this height of a building? What is it going to cost? And are we going to end up demolishing it? Because the birth rate, it is documented by the United States government, is going down low. I can tell you every demographic, how many kids they're having projected to have if you want to hear it. I think this is really important. We can't bankrupt the city over this. We can figure this out.
All right, is that all, Pam?
Isn't that a lot?
You got two.
No, that's my point. I'm speaking for seniors. I'm speaking for the fact that we're being pushed out by the 1%ers. We're fighting a lot of different things. And when Val did her study, I filled out the form of what I thought of open space, and I never heard a thing. I consider Mado's open space, and it wasn't even considered in her presentation, taking that away. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pam. All right, up next, we have Mary Ann. Mary Ann, can you hear me?
Point of order, Mr. President. I just want to remind the attendees that people should not be disparaging members of the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate that.
Mary Ann, can you hear me?
I surely can. Mary Ann Albert Boucher, 93 Mount Pleasant Avenue. Height impacts traffic. Yet I couldn't even get any additional information from the Traffic Commission. Don't know why, but I couldn't. In fact, it was presented from the City Council that we couldn't get any additional information. As recently as this month, the question necessary to consider the height of this project were erroneously captured in the official document requesting a special permit. The application was filed out incorrectly, not sure why. Traffic related to the prior elementary school. I'm sorry. I'm so disturbed by all of this. The website we're directed to as recently as today provides a document that will not even load an answer to all questions. These questions have been asked about height since the beginning, and the school school committee, building committee, any committee should have flushed all of this out before any votes. Height impacts health and wellness because the proposed school is a consolidation that does not fit, and it wipes out Article 97 protected land and natural buffer from two major highways, Route 128, Route 127. Pollution impact, traffic emissions impact.
Counselor, point of order.
Everybody else got to speak in regards to how they felt. I feel I have the right as everybody else did. No one else was stopped. It is
All right,
my right.
Mary Ann, we do have rules of procedure. When a counselor calls point of order, we have to, she has to explain, that's all. Go ahead, Counselor.
there are 4 components of 3.1.6B that we should be focusing on. And I don't believe that this this person is focused on that. So I just ask that we stay on track with what's in front of us. And that's
May I ask then how the time capsule was focused on height? Mr. Lummis, can I ask him if he has verified or confirmed information to the height of all of those buildings that they put up? There's no confirmation. It was announced by Ms. Rogers that she did not have confirmation on the height of those buildings. The bottom of Webster Street, the Gray House, the Greenhouse, none of those were confirmed according to Ms. Rogers. Height impacts justice for equal access. No translation as recently as this month for all of those neighbors. Patty Emerald was the one that asked for it. Thank you, Patty Emerald, for asking it. I could go on and on and on, and I won't, but I feel as if this entire project right here, right now, has already been decided. We know it. And it's disturbing to the highest level. Thank you very much.
Marianne. All right. Up next, we have School Committee Member Kathy Clancy. Kathy, name and address for the record, please.
Sorry, Kathy Clancy, 78 High Popples Road, Gloucester.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for holding this public hearing on this very important project and this particular aspect of the project, which is height. If anyone looks around Gloucester, you will see that our existing school buildings may be 1 story or possibly 2 where the gym is. But before that, most of the school buildings were 3 stories. We can look at Central Grammar, Eastern Ave, Maplewood. You know, there's a reason that buildings, particularly schools and others, you know, try to reduce the footprint so that there is less roof to take care of. There's more open space, and in particular on this property, you know, there's consideration of site circulation. So there are reasons why buildings and schools are built multi-story. The other thing is that when this design came forward, it, you know, was mirroring the success in terms of academics that we've seen at West Parish School, a way of providing an intimate environment for kids with kindergarten and first on the first floor, so they're not going up big stairs, second and third on the next floor, and 4 and 5 on the top floor. So academically, this particular design is a really good way of educating our youngest learner. One of the things when we picked this site was preserving open space. And this particular site is, you know, we believe, accomplish that. The height itself is because of using a smaller footprint. I want to be clear that everybody's quoting this 54 feet as being the height of the building. That's not true. It's the particular piece that's at the entrance, and there's a reason for that, which is to bring in natural light. The majority of the building is lower than that, and I'm sure someone else will address those particular fine points. So I would say that a single-story school, if that is what people are thinking, I mean, it's very common that schools exist within neighborhoods. It's very common that they are not similar to houses because that's not their function. They are, you know, municipal buildings that have stature and standing and a welcoming place for children. And there would just be no place in our city for a single-story school to accommodate our elementary schools at this point. So I also believe that this will enhance the neighborhood. Aria mentioned the families. This is very important for the families. And I also know during our public comment of choosing sites, we had a lot of East Gloucester neighbors and residents who really wanted to keep East Gloucester there if it could fit. And they will miss having kids walk by their houses and the sound of kids giggling on their way to and from school. So I view that as a complete enhancement. So I encourage you to support this special permit. We've tried to do the best we can in terms of design to keep the massing down and to accommodate all the educational goals. Thank you.
Counselor,
I'm sorry. Thank you, Kathy. All right, so we've got a couple things going on here. We've got Patty Emerald back up, and we have Sue. So I know Patty spoke earlier. Patty, I will allow you to speak briefly. I know you spoke earlier as an opponent, and if you'd like to speak for a minute or two now, I will allow that. Name and address for the record, please.
Patty Emerald, 14 Myrtle Square.
Go ahead.
We know that this proposed school building stands at 56.5 feet, will no doubt be seen from many neighborhoods. The height of our city buildings affects all of our residents of our city in many ways, some positive and some negative. We know that our Webster Street neighbors will lose their ball field on Meadows Playground and their tree line too. We know the adverse impacts of the proposed school building are many and will affect all of our citizens' quality of life. From the loss of Article 97 protected land to the loss of tree line, it will be felt. From the loss of outdoor play and gym space for our school children, it will be felt. From the loss of the state-of-the-art ball field and state-of-the-art lights, it will be felt. From the loss of our native birds and creatures, big and small's habitat, it will be felt. From the loss of history, as this pond, as it was referred to, was instrumental in supplying ice that was cut and helped to feed our city and beyond, it will be felt. From the loss of a dedicated memorial playground recreation area named after a young Portuguese soldier named Private Joseph S. Mays, it will be felt.
I love Patty's passion.
I got one more sentence. No, your vote tonight will be as historic as the day back in 1935.
Point of order, Counselor. It's not regarding height.
All right, Patty. I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please. Patty, can you hear me? You're on mute. All right. We need to stick to what we're discussing
Okay,
here.
the end of this was, no, your vote tonight will be as historic as the day back in 1935 when our city and its residents all came together to dedicate this land, the Joseph S. Matos Jr. Playground. Thank you. For Joseph. I will speak for Joseph.
All right. If you've already spoken once, I allowed Patty to speak because she was the lead speaker for the opponent, and I allowed her to come in as a resident to give her time. If you have spoken once already tonight, we're not going to circle back for everybody. We'll be here all evening. I see Pete has his hand up. With all due respect, Pete, I'm not going to be able to call on you again if you have already spoken once. So we have our school committee member, Melissa Texera. Prince, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
We do. Name and address for the record, please.
Great. My name is Melissa Joy Texera Prince. I live at 467 Western Ave, Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Go ahead.
So I am just joining this meeting. I apologize. I was at a licensing board meeting. I have absolutely no idea what has been said by anyone other than Patty in the last 2 minutes. But I just wanted.
Speak for yourself. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to speak in support of this proposal tonight. I can say as someone who was born and raised on Portuguese Hill and attended Veterans Memorial School, I know that neighborhood very well. The other day, I think it was 2 Tuesdays ago, I actually went and sat and stood near the Veterans School to watch school come in session in the morning to view the traffic. It was more of a traffic issue that I went there because I just wanted to see how bad or actually how good it worked. But I was looking around and noticing and remembering all the buildings that are there around that school. You have the corner on 1 Webster Street that's a 3 or 4 story building. Up on the corner of Friend Street, on the corner of Webster and Friend Street, there's a very tall 4-story gray building there. A little ways more up the street on 34 Webster Street, where I spent half my life at my best friend's house. That's another 4-story house up there. So if you look around in that neighborhood, and I think I brought this up at the school committee meeting a couple weeks ago, I'm kind of surprised that that some would expect that a building wouldn't be tall in that neighborhood. I mean, I know when there was discussions of mile marker. I got to watch those P and D meetings and learn a little bit about zoning and expectations from the community and concerns from the community about heights. And I could see why that decision was made. But when I stood in that neighborhood, a neighborhood that I grew up in, knowing that along Friend Street, along Taylor Street, going up the hill towards Green Street, there are tall buildings in that neighborhood. And I don't see that this building would be out of place. Like has been said, it's not the whole building that's going to be that tall. And the way that it sits on the land, I don't see it as being a big eyesore. So I hope that you will consider this zoning request and what the proposal before you and approve it, knowing that it is not going to be this large building that sticks out in a neighborhood where it is unmatched by the size of other buildings. So thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your support in this matter.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, up next we have Patty. Patty, can you hear me?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, name and address for the record, please.
Patty Page, 3 Tidal Cove Way.
Thank you, go ahead.
Hi, and I'd like to speak about the height tonight, but I also just like to clarify before I get any off topic. When the proponents spoke, they mentioned some things, you know, they went through quite a few issues, actually. I want to know if I can speak to any of those, because it seems to me they addressed this in the light of the height. So I don't want to be off topic, but I don't know if someone just wants to clarify that for me. In other words, if one of the proponents spoke about an issue, can I address that same issue?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Go ahead and.
Raise your hand and I'll change on. Okay, sorry about that. Because what was mentioned was the fact that the voters voted for this. And I just really like to clarify that in the eye that I see it, the voters did vote. We voted to support an override. We voted to support our community and our children in our community and good education. That in no way was tied to a location of a school. We didn't endorse the location in that vote. And it's often worded that they voted for it in a lock, stock, and barrel. I don't think that's fair to say. But the height, it seems, was increased in order to minimize the massing, is the way it was worded. So if you're going to minimize massing in a site, and you need that for the site circulation patterns, it seems to me that that's an adjustment you'd make to try to fit something on a lot that doesn't fit. And that's why the increase of height happened, because it clearly is a difficult site to fit this size building on for that number of students. Yes, it's always been a school site, but not a school of that mass and that many inhabitants, students and staff. That does create adverse impacts to this neighborhood. In my review of these plans, there is not one natural organic space on the whole site any longer. Not one blade of grass, nothing. I don't even know if you guys have decided on trees. I'm not, if I missed that detail, I apologize. But the adverse impact of taking out green space in a neighborhood and substituting with hardscape is completely unjust, considering the impact to that neighborhood. Particularly with the limited open space resources that they have. I think this is their last. And that's not the same in any of our wards or neighborhoods. I don't think we can say that anywhere, that there's no green space in our neighborhood. That is an adverse impact. The height increases the mass, increases the number of people you're going to put in there, and the impacts to the neighborhood. I know it's, you know, traffic in the sense of more people, more impact on the neighborhood. And it's absolutely intolerable that I've asked time and time again for the most modern tools and software to be utilized in these presentations to demonstrate to the public your circulations around these areas, and it's been denied. That is an adverse impact to the neighborhood.
Patty, we're pushing 4 minutes, just so you know.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. That was
All right,
enough.
thank you.
I hope your vote in your discussion tonight includes the discussions we've heard.
Thank you, Patty. All right, up next, we have Rachel. Rachel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Name and address for the record, please.
Rachel Rafalo, 225 Bray Street.
Go ahead, thank you.
Hi. I've been a huge supporter of this school project from the beginning. And I did want to speak in support of voting for going ahead with the project. And I do understand that, you know, clearly things do happen as projects go along, as they always do. I just a few weeks ago, when we did a huge school-wide teacher appreciation event, did have the opportunity to go into veterans and deliver whoopie pies to the teachers there with the whoopie pie wagon. And I had been outside the school, but never in the school. My children attend West Parish. And as I'm standing in there, of course, you know, these kids are in a very different school than mine are. And I'm again reminded that these kids are in smaller spaces. There's kids learning in the hallway. They have a gym shared with a cafeteria. They're in conditions that I did see when my son was originally at West Parish, but I no longer see. And that is why I support this project wholeheartedly, because these are schools that needs replaced. And I think, to me, that I don't want to lose sight of that. And that's why we're here. And that's why, you know, more than 50% of those voters did vote for this project to go ahead. And that's what I think we can't lose sight of. And that's the most important thing, is these kids, the safe environment, the learning, a safe space for them to do that. You know, the multitude of reasons why we did that. I understand it's a congested area. I understand, you know, the drawbacks that have been brought up by the folks, but I also understand that, to me, it's the children's education that has to come first. And, you know, people talk about that area and the children that live there. It will hugely impact those families in a positive way.
All right, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right. And we had Sue. I don't know if she has her hand down. I thought she tried to log on with something differently. I saw another Sue with her name up, but we do have a Sue down here, and I don't know if it's her, but I'm going to promote her to a panelist and see if she'd like to speak. That way we give everybody a chance. Sue, can you hear me? There we go, Sue. Well, you're on mute. Nope, you're still on mute.
Sue, bottom left of your computer, maybe, is the mute button.
Nope, she's having technical difficulties. I wish I had a button where I could unmute her here. We can't hear you, Sue.
I think she's saying, tell me the phone number. Oh,
Yeah. All right.
Did it.
All right. So Sue, name and address for the record, please.
I don't have the number. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yes. Can you hear us? All right.
I can hear you.
Name and address for the record, please.
All right. My name is Susan Muse, and I live at 22 Mount Vernon Street for 45 years.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I am in opposition to the school, not to the building of a new school. I'm in opposition to the location currently being looked at. Mr. Blanchard made some good points. It is going to be detrimental for the neighborhood. It is going to cut off their view. They can say that they're going to be able to see green trees. They're not going to be able to see green trees. It's going to cut their view of the green. We're losing the field, which is used daily. And the slides that Mr. Loomis showed, I think, were very deceiving. The height is too great. I'm not against new school. And a matter of fact, I would love to see new schools built where they currently are. And I think it would be less expensive than what you're trying to do. How can you say this view won't change? That is the most ludicrous statement I've heard at this meeting tonight, especially if you're one of the homeowners or renters that live on Webster Street across the street. I do feel that it shows the school with a lot of width of a street, which I don't think is realistic either on that slide that was shown. And I also feel that the city council is applying for a special permit as a way of skirting the height issue for the variance on height. I just don't understand why they're going for a special permit instead of just asking for a height variance, which I think is too high. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for your patience with the phone and the audio.
No problem. So we just wanted to make sure we circled back to you. I saw you had your hand down and I wanted to make sure you had your chance to speak. So we appreciate your
Thank you.
patience. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor or in opposition? Please raise your hand. If you're calling on a phone, you can press *9 for the public hearing part of this. All right. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have any communications?
Yes, we do. The communications that were forwarded to me, we have one letter of support from Larry Oakes for Clay Court. We have in opposition, Mary Doan, Patty and Howie Amro, and Denise Foley, and Carl Dwight Jr. He sent in 3 letters.
Okay. Thank you, Joanne. All right. Do we have any councilor questions? Councilor Gilman.
Council, thank you. I just have a slight point of order on the public hearing protocol. I'm wondering where, if we are going to give the proponents an opportunity for
A
a rebuttal.
Yes.
And we haven't done that. And you know, we did allow the opponents to speak again. And I think that there might have been a couple of things of clarification. So I leave that up to you.
No, we can circle back. That's my bad. I was more worried about Sue trying to get on so she could speak than
Okay. I get it.
my
I just wanted to
time.
mention that. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. So we will have our rebuttals. So we actually have 2 more people that have raised their hands, so that didn't before. So without objection, I'll allow these people to speak if that's okay with everybody else. So that way we make sure everybody got their chance to speak.
Sure.
All right. CK, that's all we have is 2 initials. Can you hear me? Hello, CK. All right, I don't know if they're having technical difficulties. 2 letters CK, I don't know who your name or a phone number, it just says CK, so. All right, we're gonna proceed. So rebuttals, I'm gonna call on someone from the proponent, Superintendent Chairman Pope, would like to rebuttal anything?
I can talk to a couple of things that were stated incorrectly.
Go ahead.
And I'm sure Ben will have a few things to say. Number one, the issue about rooftop units and mechanicals that will go on the roof. There will be mechanicals that on the roof, air conditioners, heating systems. They will not be on the section that is 54 feet high. They'll be on the 46-foot height section. And consequently, even if they're 8 feet. They will still not exceed the 54-foot height. Okay. The second one is that it was stated that the vote was not for this school, and it was. This school had in June, or actually July of 2020, was the school that was approved by MSBA and by the school committee and by and it was the school that the citizens voted on. There was no other option. Now, the wording of the ballot question did not state that, and there are legal reasons for that, because it was a ballot question was to approve the authorization of the increasing the tax levy to pay for the bond of the school. But it was always the school. There was no, it was clear, it was made clear, continually about that. And the other thing that was not true, the ground level of the school, the new school, is at 48 feet. Okay, it's not, we're not filling in with, we're raising the average height from the existing building by 2.5 feet, not by enough to bring it up to the level of Webster Street. Michelle might be able to help me with this, but the elevation at the corner of Webster Street and Friend Street is 60 feet. So that is, the bottom of the school will be at 48 feet. So it's not the same. Ben, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, John. The only thing I would add is that it was claimed during someone's comments that the height has been increased. The height has not been increased. I want to be crystal clear about that at any time since the design has been shared publicly. That's last June, July, September, August, going up until the votes by all the bodies and also the members of the public. So there's been no increase in height since the schematic design phase, and certainly there's been no increase in height since the voters voted.
All right, any other rebuttals from the proponent?
No rebuttal, but just
Go ahead, John.
saying from, the override vote that was put out in front of the public was as required by MSBA.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else? All right, so a rebuttal to the rebuttal. So if anybody from the opposition would like to speak on any of those matters on the rebuttal, Patty, go ahead. And one more time, name and address for the record though, Patty.
Patty Amaral, 14 Myrtle Square.
Go ahead.
So, it was 47.7 to 52 or something as far as that vote concerned. But, what are you gonna do about this? I'm just gonna tell you a quick story about a lady that I brought up to the voting poll that day to vote. She couldn't get out of her car. I know her. She's a resident of Gloucester. She couldn't get out of her car, and I had someone from City Hall help me get her up there. The whole time we were going up there, she was talking to me because she knows that I've been working to save Mados Field, and she said she's there because she wanted to vote for that. So she gets up there, and it's because she couldn't hear or see, she has to have the questions said to her. And so she has this question said to her, and there was a lot of long ones too. There was one about the right to repair that was like 5 pages longer.
Point of order, Mr. President. May I please ask Ms. Amaral, if you don't mind, this is about the height that we're looking at here.
Well, I was just trying to get to the vote part of it where people were not sure of that question. When she got up, she voted.
The election took place. So
I understand, but she voted, and then she was like,
building.
Then she was like, oh my God, she said, Patty, I'm so happy I got to vote for Mados. And I
Mr.
said,
President.
Leanne, you didn't vote for Mados. And another thing that happened there also was that There was
Patty, hold
yes
on.
literature. There was
Oh, Patty, hold on one second. I put you on mute for 1 second. Councilor Holmgren, go ahead.
There is nothing to do with the height in what Ms. Amaral is saying. We are not discussing what took place in November. We are discussing the special permit applicants application for the height of the building.
All right.
I don't know what is happening, but we're going off the rails here.
All right, go ahead.
Well,
Patty.
it's because other people have also done it. That's why I'm just going with what other people are doing. I'm not trying to do anything else, but the story is told. And there was also yes literature on tables up there. You know, we can't even go by that vote because a lot of people didn't understand it. I'm sorry that they didn't. And the
This
next
has
time-
nothing to do, Mr. President,
Well,
really,
Patty.
this has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay,
All right,
well,
thank you. Patty, for the rebuttals to the questions that were brought forth by the proponent, that's what we're rebutting. We're not bringing interjecting new things into this. We are rebutting what Chairman Pope and Superintendent Lummis had spoke to. That's what a rebuttal is. So Council Holmgren is correct.
well, you know.
Rebuttal to
Well,
the.
well, you got me, okay? You got me good. So I don't know
Okay.
what to say. So that's all I can say. I don't know what to say. It's one good for a person and another good, not good for another person. I don't understand the fairness of any of this.
It's-
And believe me, I've sat on all these boards. Come on, think about it. Sat on Clean City. I've sat on Open Space and Recreation Advisory. And they didn't even want to touch this. They didn't want to write a letter for me.
All right,
Come
Patty, I'm
on.
gonna
Now, is
ask
this
you to-
really fair?
This is a rebuttal.
Yeah,
This
well,
is-
that's a
this is-
rebuttal that this
due
is not a
process.
fair process at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for everybody else that has their hand up, Patty was the lead speaker in the opening part. So she was the rebutter. I'm not going to call on everybody that spoke this evening to rebut the rebuttal. That's just not how we're working this. It was Chairman Pope and Superintendent Lummis were the two people that were the lead speakers for the proponent, and Patty was the lead speaker for the opponent. So I'm not going to call on everybody else for rebuttals this evening. All right, so we've gone through the public hearing part of it to the communications, and now we're on to councilor questions. Any councilor questions? Councilor Holmgren.
Yes, two-part question, if that's all right, through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long has the shadow study been on the website for people to examine, and how long has the website been up for the new school project?
We've had a new website for the new school project for years now. The latest incarnation was redone in, I think, December. But we've always had a website, a project website on our district website or linked from there. And that's where we've been keeping all the documents related to the project. Those we submit to MSBA, those presentations we've done in front of public bodies. In terms of the shadow study specifically, that went up the evening of, so last Wednesday, immediately after the P&D subcommittee meeting. So that's been there, and it's actually, I think, yeah, linked right from the front page of that, I believe.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jen? Councilor Gilman?
Yeah, just an extra point of clarification, because it's a good question. We actually saw the initial shadow study at the first meeting on May 5th. And both Councilor Pett and Councilor Holmgren asked for a more detailed shadow study because they wanted different times of year when the sun was at different levels. And then the applicant worked hard to come back to describe that to us and show that to us. And that's when we did that again last on May or June 2nd meeting is when we saw that. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And I did have a question on the shadow study. May I, through the chair?
See.
Thank you. So we didn't see the shadow study tonight. And I know at the June 2nd meeting, there were only 5 counselors that were there. And I just wonder if it would be worth our while to ask either Michelle Rogers or Brad Dorr to show us the shadow study. We can do it in, it's about 20 seconds, but it's a major component to the height and it might be a benefit for all the counselors to see. So just my suggestion, question.
I have.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarification on that, if I might, Mr. Chairman, if we're going to show the shadow study, again, it did get into much more detail upon our request, and I would ask that what they do, if you're going to allow it to be shown, that we show the longest day of the year, which is the June 21st date, and that we show it from 5 a.m. until I think 9 p.m. or whatever time it ends. That would be the longest time to be able to see anything. That would be the date. And I think if I remember when they ran through the studies, they were able to adjust the speed so that 1 second of real time was 1 hour of actual time on the study.
So we do have Michelle Rogers and Brad Dorr from Dorr and Whittier. Michelle or Brad, is it possible to throw up the shadow?
Michelle, I have it on my computer here. I can show it to you.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
And I will also just give me a moment to share this. While we're good, here we go. I just also want to point out that this, what I'm going to show everyone, is available right on the building project website where it says solar studies. I mean, this is available for everyone in the public to see. We'll show it right now, obviously, and happy to do so. But anyone can play it as many times as they like. Let me just get to the presentation here. Let me increase the size here a little bit. So this is, I'll show you two parts or two versions of the shadow study. This is from up above, obviously, a bird's eye view. This is on June 21st. So it goes from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Each 1 second is an hour in real time. I can stop it along the way. So you see it's dark now at 5 a.m. on June 21st. It isn't pitch black, obviously, because it's already getting light. So I'll run this and you'll see. So you're already seeing, let me back this up a little bit. You're already seeing as the sun rises, the shadow from the building is towards the bottom of it, below it in a sense. It's basically just barely touching the houses across the property, their front stoops. That goes pretty quickly and pulls away from the houses as the sun continues to rise. We enter, about around noon, midday here. Sun is overhead, and then as the sun goes to the western sky, the shadows extend towards the highway, essentially. See if I can back this up a little bit and stop it. So at this point, they're extending this way towards the highway and towards the back of the property. I can show that one more time, if that's helpful. So just after sunrise, you already see the shadows receding from Webster Street. Sun continues overhead. And then the shadow begins to grow here. You can see it right here. And then continues to extend, stretches beyond, and then it's sundown, basically. The next version of this is looking at the building. I would ignore the lights. We don't expect those gym lights to be on at 5 o'clock in the morning. No one will be there. So again, same time frame. Each 1 second is an hour. You'll see now that this is at sunrise. All the shadows are to the left of the buildings. These are the ones from the houses. These are the ones from the school itself. they're receding quickly from Webster, being on Webster Street just after sunrise. They pull further and further away from the houses and Webster Street. Sun rotates over the building and they start extending, and they're extending across you can see extending across the parking lot here. They're not approaching these buildings that are on Eastern Avenue. And then it's dark. Okay. Is that sufficient? Like anything, should I show that again or?
I'm fine with it. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so for everybody that has their hand up as attendees, we're on our counselor question part of the public hearing part of this. We've already gone through the public part of this, so we're going to proceed with the counselor questions. Counselor O'Hara.
Thank you. Just a quick question of Mr. Loomis. He just mentioned, as far as in the light shadow study, that the lights would be off in the gym. Is this in fact true? I know the lights at West Parish are on all the time. I'm just more curious if in fact this will be operated differently than West Parish, which the lights are on 24/7.
So the lights on in modern buildings are there, just very minimal lighting, security lighting. I know in the past, there's been some errors in terms of the timing of lights at West Parish. Those have been remedied, and my understanding is that the lighting, and maybe Brad, you can add to this, is just very minimal lighting for security only. We don't like complete dark buildings in terms of safety, but also any lighting from the building will be shaded from the streets and from the neighbors. And exterior lighting, like if there's any lights on the outside of the building, those are shaded from the neighbors. In terms of interior lighting, what we expect is only minimal safety lighting. Brad, anything to add to that?
No, that's correct. What you're trying to do is you have code required safety lighting for egress stairs, et cetera. So
Brad, we're Councilor O'Hara, we're talking about height here, not the.
No, I understand, and thank you. That's fine.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, Councilor Gilman forwarded me a letter, an email of a question that I put forward. It came from Michelle Rogers. I just want to not so much clarify, but validate. And again, this is for Michelle.
That it's not really related to height.
This is related to height, Councilor Gilman.
Okay.
Height has a direct relation to, in this case, cubic footage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the existing school as such on Webster Street is, from what I understand from the email, is 90,461 cubic feet. And the proposed school is, per the email, is 1,649,189 cubic feet. Is that correct?
No, I don't know the cubic feet of the existing school. What I gave you was the square footage of the proposed school is 90,461. That's square footage, not cubic.
It's not cubic footage?
No,
Okay,
I gave you.
I'll look at the email again. Thank you.
Yeah, the million number was the cubic square feet.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other councilor questions? Councilor McCarthy.
Yes, this would probably be for Mr. Dorr. The matter before us tonight is height. It's not whether there is a school going there or not going there. And I'd like him to equate the height as the effect that would have on traffic.
So Councilor McCarthy, I think it's almost a two-part answer there. The first part is with respect to trips, the building height really has no effect. I would suggest that with respect to traffic, right in front of the site or being able to get in and out of the site, that the three-story building is preferable because what that allows over a lower building, because what that allows us to do is have more on-site queuing space to allow us to be able to get more cars off of Webster Street and onto the site proper. So I think the 3-story building actually works to our advantage with respect to traffic in that regard. I hope that answers your question.
It does. And like I say, that's the matter before us tonight is height. So that's why I wanted it equated to the traffic, not whether the school going there is going to cause more traffic. So thank you for answering that.
Thank you, John. Any other councilor questions? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and refer this out to our Planning and Development Chair, Councilor Gilman.
Thank you. On a motion by Councilor Holgram, seconded by Councilor Pat, the Planning and Development Committee voted by roll call, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council grant to the City of Gloucester School Department a special council permit, SCP 2021-002, for the property located at Webster Street, number 11, Assessor's Map 47, Lot 13 in the R20 district pursuant to Gloucester Zoning Ordinance Section 1.10.1 and 3.1.6b, building heights in excess of 35 feet for the new East Gloucester Veterans Memorial School to be 56.5 feet for a total height increase of 21.5 feet over 35 feet. The permit is based on the basis of the plans and elevations dated March 30th, 2021, and submitted to the city clerk on April 26, 2021, entitled Overall Exterior Elevations, drawn by Dorton Whittier Architects, Inc., 260 Merrimack Street, Newburyport, Mass. Subject to new information and/or debate that results from the public hearing, this special council permit is deemed to be in harmony with the intent and the purpose of the zoning ordinance, and I so move.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved by Councilor Gilman, seconded by Councilor Holmgren. And we're gonna have councilor discussion. But before we have councilor discussion, I just wanna go over a couple of bullet points before we vote this evening. So under the criteria for 3.1.6c, our vote, we should include the following. And you should explain yourself of why you're voting in favor or in opposition. Is the increase in allowable height consistent with the neighborhood character? So that should be included in your vote, whether in favor or in opposition. And will this permit not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of the obstructions of view? With this permit, will not be substantially detrimental to the overshadowing of other properties. And will this special council permit not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of the impairment of utilities and other adverse impacts? And any other comments on the height permit before I call the roll call? So when we vote this evening, we should include some of these answers in our vote, and just to make sure everybody. So now we're in councilor discussion. I don't want to draw a straw poll right now, so if we want to have the discussion of when we vote and before that, I just don't want to get into the weeds of a straw poll on what we're going to do before. Councilor Gilman?
Yes, may I just take a moment to do my narrative for?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I just wanted to say a couple of things before we physically voted.
Okay, terrific. So tonight, as Councilor LeBlanc articulated, we're here to consider a special council permit for building height in excess of section 3.2 limits, section B of 3.16, may be authorized by special council permit by the city council. And the said permit in allowable height is, and I won't repeat that because Councilor LeBlanc already articulated that, but I want to summarize by saying, Planning and Development met 3 times on May 5th, 2021, on May 19th, 2021, and again on June 2nd, 2021. We also held 2 site visits to view height poles as it relates to the height requirements. Although Mass General Law on open meeting laws does not require site visits to be posted, we did decide to invite abutters. The first site visit, we walked around with flyers, and the second site visit, we not only walked around with flyers, we interpreted them in Spanish and Portuguese as well. Thanks to Council Holgram on the language interpretation and Council Cox for helping me deliver those for the first site visit. So I just wanted to comment that these site visits, particularly the one on May 27th, were well attended, probably 10 to 15, not just abutters, but residents, each one. And I scribed every question. And I have to say that Doran Whittier did, and the superintendent and Jonathan Pope did a phenomenal job answering all those questions. The question and answer for those who, I know counselors have watched the video, the Zoom, and have read the minutes, but the questions were incredibly detailed on every single question. And, you know, I feel that that makes me feel comfortable that we're ready to move forward. In addition, in this, I have to state that Tracy O'Neill was part of this, which was great. She was one of the neighbors that attended the first site visit, and she asked many questions about the elevation as it pertained to how much fill we were going to be moving up. And as a result, the applicant came up with a phenomenally detailed color coding system to put on the two poles that were there, so we could understand the variance in how much fill we were going to be raising up. And that information is still there. So anyone that wants to go and see this, as long as you're not there when school's in sight, that information is still there. And it's also, the diagram is in our packet. So I just wanted to say that I believe that we did an incredibly thorough job answering each and every person's question. It's all documented. You can watch the Zoom meetings of those 3 meetings, and you can also read the minutes, which are very thorough. And we approved the one from June 2nd tonight, and it's been on the website for a couple of days as well. So I appreciate that. And at this point, I do send the conversation back to Councilor LeBlanc, and whenever you're ready to ask councilors to discuss, I'm prepared to do so. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Do we have any other councilor discussion? Councilor Memhard.
Thank you, Steve. I'd just like to start out by recognizing and appreciating the passionate advocacy of Patty Amaral and the Softball League and all the other people who've spoken so clearly about their concerns on this project, because they've done a wonderful job, and I can only respect their voices. That said, I think that we need to move ahead with this wonderful asset for the community and the children of our city. I think that the shadowing study, which was just reshown again, addresses any issue about shadowing by the building. It reflects the topography, that the fact is that this site is lower than Webster Street. I do not believe that it's out of character with the neighborhood. And particularly the setbacks, the school being 124 feet back now from Webster Street, really reduces the domination of what is a large building on the surrounding neighborhood. And I think it is consistent accordingly with the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Any other councilor discussion? Councilor McCarthy, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
And then Councilor Gilman. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm on record as saying that I didn't think this was the best place to put the school. However, that's not what's before us tonight. The matter before us tonight is height. I actually took a ride over to West Parish to look at the school today, and it is aesthetically pleasing. I think the building that's there now for the view of the neighbors, the old Ward 2 school or veteran school, it really is not a great view. I think moving, as Councilman Menhad just said, moving the building back over 100 feet more than it is now from the road is going to create a different view. I heard someone say that you're going to miss the sounds of the kids going to school and back. Well, I hear them every day going by my house. We're going to miss that. And I think the neighborhood over there is going to be lucky to have that. Like I say, I do think there are issues with the school being there, but that's not what we're here for tonight. We're here tonight as to utilities overshadowing views, neighborhood character. There's a school there now, there's going to be another school there. So as much as I voted against this project in the beginning, I cannot vote tonight negatively because of what's before us tonight. And that's how the height affects it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councilor Gilman, and then Councilor Holmgren, and then Councilor O'Hara, and then Cox. Councilor Gilman?
Thank you. So in looking over the 4 components of what is in front of us under 3.1.6b, will this permit not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of view obstruction? So the height of the tallest point, which is the clear-story lobby area, provides daylight into the main corridor of the new building and is only 16 feet wide and 90 feet long. The administrative arts area is 40 feet high, with the majority of the rest of the building, about 77%, including the academic wing, is 46 feet or lower. And so as we look at this for the height tonight, which is, we're looking for that one section, the 56.5, and we want to keep that in mind. Will this permit not be substantially detrimental to the overshadowing of other properties? In December, there was virtually no shadowing impact through Webster Street. And at 5:30, there may be a little bit of shadow at the slope of the abutters across the street, but by 6 a.m., the shadowing was gone. The building is set back further than the existing school, and that creates a better buffer. Right now, the existing school is 30 feet from Webster Street, and now the distance under the dimension table for how far it is height in that front area is 124 feet. The building setback further existing school creates a better buffer. I already said that, I'm sorry. Will the special council permit not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of impairment of utilities or other adverse impacts? Just some of the things that I'm passionate about that I've heard in the presentations is that all overhead wires will be removed and all new service electrical phone data will be underground. So improvements in the utilities. No utility easements exist currently on the property or will exist on the property or are existing in the property, and no impact to utilities due to the height of the proposed building. And then finally, in terms of the height consistent with the neighborhood character, the house on the corner of Friend and Webster Street, where the tallest house sat approximately 50 feet to the roof peak. And Michelle Rogers was very clear when we discussed this, that her numbers are plus or minus possibly a foot. And she was very clear that she was estimating in that the highest point in the proposed building in the house is elevation of 60 feet with the proposed building of 48 feet. So I just wanted to mention that. So those are my comments in terms of the requisite criteria that's in front of us under 3.6 B, and I just wanted to share that with council. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Councilor Holmgren?
Yes, thank you. I do want to piggyback on what Councilor Gilman said with relation to the utilities of the building. This building is going to be LEED certified. And in fact, I did confirm this at P&D. It will be more stringently examined than West Parish, which was LEED certified when it was built. I can only imagine that that will have a positive impact on the neighborhood and the community itself, especially since we are a green community. And our Clean City Commission and Community Development Department have worked very hard to update school utilities to the best of their ability. I will speak to the building envelope because certainly the Clear Story is part of that. And I will say I am supporting it for the reasons that have already been stated, as well as its positive impact as far as the environment goes.
Thank you, Jen. Councilor O'Hara, then Cox, then Pat.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for their efforts, the P&D and the school committee, Dora and Whittier. I will not be supporting this tonight. I do not believe that the building is in character with the neighborhood, and I do believe it will also be extremely detrimental to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Councilor Cox, and then Councilor Pat.
Thank you. I want to start off by also showing my appreciation to P&D, the school committee, and Dora and Whittier. I think everybody has been very, very thorough. Val, without you being chair, I worry about some of the processes. So you are very thorough, and I appreciate that. As far as neighborhood character, I think with the new school that there will be more improvements to the neighborhood than negative impact, mainly because of the fact that the height is going to provide more land for the traffic to flow better. As far as the view, the current view is a building that's not going to change. And the overshadowing, I find no large negative impact with that. And moving the utilities underground it's huge for the area in which we live in. So having that ability to do so is also a benefit. I will be voting for this.
Thank you, Melissa. Councilor Pat.
Yes, a few of these things in support of this application tonight. The overshadowing, again, on June 21st, the very longest day of the year, literally at sunbreak, the shadows touch the foundations of two houses within half an hour. That's totally gone. There is no other impact by shadowing. The views, as most have said, there's a school there now. There's going to be hopefully there's going to be a school in the future. The views from the first floor of many of the Webster Street homes may have a slightly less distant view of some of the shrubs that are on the other side of Route 128. If you're on the upper side of Webster Street, maybe there's a little less view from that portion of what's now Meadows Field. If you're on the lower end, there's actually going to be an increased view because of the new parking and area and the turnaround egress to take the traffic off the streets. So it'll be an improved view. Again, there's a school there now. There'll be a school in the future. I think many, as Councilor Cox pointed out, many of the improvements are going to take the traffic off of the street. That's going to improve the neighborhood and the neighborhood character. I think we will obviously have to look at traffic as we get closer to doing it and see what we can do to help traffic in the neighborhood. And then maybe when the school is built, maybe we have to make some adjustments as have been made in other schools. But this plan shows a tremendous concern for the neighbors, for those traffic patterns, et cetera, even for the walking patterns. When some people were concerned about the park and the 10 parking spaces, and it was only going to be 6 or 8 now. That's because they're now parallel parking, so there's a sidewalk. So the kids and the families can actually walk up and down Webster Street on the sidewalk. Those are the types of improvements. And with that, the height that we're going to vote for tonight, I think, is very important to continue the progress, and very important for the future education of the next few generations yet of our kids in this city, and I'll be supporting it.
All right, thanks, Barry. We have myself and Councilor Nolan left. Sean, do you want to speak before I do?
On the height, I don't see the height being an issue, the way that the grade is for the building where it is now versus the rest of the neighborhood. I don't see height being an issue in anything that would determine me to vote against this. As far as a view, again, grade has a lot of issues, and there's a school there now, and you're going to see a school. I think the view that you're going to see is going to be much more beautiful. There is going to be more things for people to do in the playgrounds, and the view that you have above the school is still almost going to be the same as what you have now. It's not going to change much other than skyline and some trees. Shadowing, I think that we've definitely proved beyond a doubt that the shadowing is not going to be an issue with this. So that's definitely something that I think is not a problem. And utilities that only even get better. The school's going to use less energy per people than it is now. The neighborhood is set up for the sewer, water. Moving the power lines and everything underground is also a plus. So on those 4 criteria, I will be supporting this. But I also want to say that being in Ward 5 and working with a lot of the parents in Ward 5, there's a noticeable difference in what West Parish is now and what it was. And a gift that we can give to our students is to give them the proper learning space and adequate space for them to be in. It's healthy, it's more environmentally friendly, and it definitely provides for a better learning skill. And I can talk about parents that have had children in the old school and the new school, and the difference is incredible, both great educations. But if we can make it easier for children to be educated and be private about needs that they may have, then this is just a blessing for the neighborhood, and they'll see it sooner or later. But I will be supporting this tonight, and thank you to the school committee and planning and development. You guys did an unbelievable job. Unbelievable.
Thank you, Sean. Well said. I'm going to piggyback on everybody here. You know, consistent with the neighborhood. I can remember playing up at Caesars my whole youth, every sport we could. There are several buildings on not only on Webster Street that are pretty tall, but going up Front Street, there are also a few. So the characteristic of the neighborhood is consistent. The shadowing obviously isn't an issue at all. The obstruction of views, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You can be in the woods and think you've got a magnificent view. You can be at downtown Boston looking at the skyline, looking at the buildings, thinking you've got an amazing view. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder of a view. The utilities, obviously, it's a major upgrade. And what else? I think that's it for me. You know, so I think we've gone through everything. If there's nothing else anybody would like to say, during council, so we're still in council discussion. I am ready to call for the roll call if there's nothing else.
Melissa had her
Oh, I'm
hand up.
sorry, Councilor Cox. My apologies.
No worries. I just wanted to add something because it's really bugging me a little bit. I've been on the council for 10 years. The first year that I voted on something, I was told that I was going to ruin the character of Gloucester. Councilor Blank, you're well aware of what I'm talking about. It's about the hotel. It has been a tremendous asset to our city. So, you know what, I'm sorry that some people think that we are ruining the character of Gloucester. And maybe in 10 years, we'll know how this plays out, but I am certainly comfortable in my vote from 10 years ago, allowing the hotel to move forward. And I'm as comfortable with moving forward with the school vote as I am tonight. So I'm sorry that some people think that we are ruining the character of Gloucester, but I think we are doing everything we can to make it better.
Well said, Councilor Cox. Anybody else before we motion to the Councilor Gilman?
Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to speak twice. I wanted to give a shout out to the building committee. I just noticed that Joe Lucido is still on the call. And he represented Public Works on the building committee, and it's been a long night. I'm sure he went to work at around 6:30 this morning, maybe earlier. Building committee, city administration, including John Dunn, Chip Payson, the mayor. There's just been but we've already given kudos to Superintendent Lummis and Jonathan Pope and members of the school committee. But it's just, we've really been incredibly detailed with this, and it's really appreciated because the questions that came up from people in the community are passionate, and I think we're a better council as we've been able to get through some of these questions, and I appreciate that. So thanks for letting me say that before our roll call. Appreciate it.
All right. Ready for the roll call, everyone? So we understand what we're voting on this evening, the height exception for the school. All right, Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Memhard.
Yes.
Councilor Nolan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara.
No.
Councilor Pat.
Yes.
Councilor Cox.
Yes.
Councilor Gilman.
Yes.
Councilor Holmgren.
Yes.
And myself, Councilor LeBlanc, yes. Motion passes on a roll call vote of 8 in favor, 1 opposed. Councilor Holmgren.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to move to reconsider this vote.
Second.
All right, motion to reconsider has been made by Councilor Holmgren and seconded by Councilor Gilman and Memhard. All right, everybody understand the reconsideration? All right, Councilor McCarthy.
No.
Councilor Memhard.
No.
Councilor Nolan.
No.
Councilor O'Hara.
No.
Councilor Pat.
No.
Councilor Cox.
No.
Councilor Gilman.
No.
Councilor Holmgren.
No.
And Councilor LeBlanc, no. Motion to reconsider fails on a roll call vote of 0 in favor, 9 opposed. All right, great job, everyone. I know it's tough to listen to people in opposition and see them on the streets, but we have to remember that we also represent people that don't reach out to us, and they're making sure that we're doing things for them without them having to communicate with us. I know the school passed through the ballot question whether it was by a slim margin or by a huge margin, it still passed. And that's what we have to do as a city, is represent what the majority of the voters have, just like with any other democratic process that we do, not only in the city, but the United States. And this was tough for all of us this evening. Our kids deserve better. And going through some of these schools over the past several months, touring them to see these kids in hallways and the cafetorium, or whatever we want to call it, and everything else that goes on in these tiny little schools that are way older than myself. It's going to be nice to be able to see these kids get an education that they need in the places that they need to do it. So hopefully my grandchild that we had will be able to enjoy one of these new schools that we're building. All right, so like I said, great job, everyone, and we will move forward. Madam Clerk, can we have the next order of business, please?
Next order of business for discussion only, city council discussion regarding resuming in-person meetings.
All right, so as we know, shut my air conditioner off so I can hear a little better. as we know, the governor has lifted the restrictions and everything, so we're pretty much back to normal. We've had some discussion from some constituents that they're able to attend these meetings. So I know how I feel. I could go either way, in person or stay remote, but and we're not going to vote on anything tonight. We're just going to open it up to discussion. But a couple of things we have to do is work with the administration on getting a location where we can do it. And if we do go back to the auditorium, and then also the time change, because since we've been doing these remotely, we've started at 6 p.m. rather than 7 p.m. So we may have to go back to the 7 p.m. start if we do meet in person. So Councilor Pat, I see you have your hand up first. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just a thought process. Obviously, we've had some difficult times, and we've gone through a process here using the Zoom meetings, and many others have, and some haven't been able to do so. And I think it was pointed out by many of the callers in some cases that they were able to participate, and they had never been able to participate before. At least they didn't feel they could. Maybe they couldn't make it to City Hall or whatever. And I'm just wondering whether what the legal process is with state statutes and our own Gloucester statutes, and whether we would need to look at them. And if we do go back to live in-person meetings, whether we'd be able to have Zoom participation in those meetings, and if so, how is that funded? In other words, is that something the IT department has to pick on? Does our I don't know if Joanne will ever speak to me again if we added that as another requirement without adding another couple of employees or something. But I'm just wondering whether we could, if there's a way that we might be able to do, like that hybrid thing of both in person and being able to, have Zoom participants. And I'm just wondering if we can look at that in some fashion, not hold up the process of getting, say, back to going live. But I think it's been very productive to have some people participate where they didn't before. And if we could look at, somehow including that and find out whether that's a legal process and how, for that matter, it would be funded. Obviously, not for unfunded mandates, per se.
Thank you, Barry. Obviously, we're not going to know all the answers this evening, and we're not going to figure this out tonight, but it just opens the door for this discussion so we can ask these questions and figure out. It's probably going to take a couple of meetings for us to figure out what we want to do and how we're going to do it. But I think the school committee is doing this and their funding is like $2,000 for the year or something like that to do their Zoom, and I think they're going to keep doing it. But like I said, this just opens the door for this discussion. Councilor Holmgren?
I agree with Councilor Pat. And if it's a question of cost, I mean, can we take it out of our own council budget? Please don't shoot me dirty looks, but this has done wonders for accessibility. We've never had this many attendees consistently, and I want to keep that up. I really do.
Thank you, Jen. Councilor Gilman?
I am so eager to get back to real meetings. So eager. However, I also think that there's been a tremendous advantage of the Zoom protocol. The presentations are more clear. The audio is much more clear for people to hear and see. We get to watch the meetings again, which is so helpful. Even in meetings that I chair, it's just very, very helpful to sit down and watch it again. It also allows me to self-assess, when maybe I'm talking too much or something, which I know is sometimes. So, but I don't want to steal the thunder, but I did sit in the budget meeting when we were talking a little bit about this. So I'll let Councilor Cox speak to that. But I think we do have some headway But I will say no more. I do have a question, Councilor LeBlanc, on what you sent around today, which is the document from the an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. Sponsors are Senator Brownsberger. I did read this, and my question is, it appears that the bullet that's talked about here, it says it allows a moderator in a town having a representative town meeting form of government to request a town meeting be held through remote participation, including but not limited to by means of a video or telephone conferencing platform until December 15th, 2021. I'm just wondering if that is similar to cities and if there's an issue that we're going to need to rally around to get permission to do this, if this is something we decide to do. So I did enough talking now that you know how I self-assess when I watch Zoom. And I know Councilor Cox had her hand raised, so thank you.
Thank you, Val. Councilor Cox.
Since Val was sitting in on our budget meetings this year, she is well aware that we have been talking about it with the IT department and the administration on adding this in so we can do a hybrid. I don't think that that is out of the question. It's very little money, and our IT director, Ryan Knowles, has also agreed that he doesn't think that it's going to be much effort. So he is on our revisit list tomorrow, so we will be discussing that further with him. And you're right, the money it's short money, which I think is actually more than what we have in our council budget. So I certainly wouldn't take it from there. But we are planning for that for July 1. So I do think that with the legislation that's still out there and the quality of the building that we have our meetings in, that we should be assessing that with the administration to maybe provide some other kind of workstation instead of the dais. But it's something that where we can still social distance. I don't know whether my colleagues have all had their vaccination, and I don't think that needs to be discussed here. But you know, I think we still need to take some precautions. Even with the vaccine, we can still get COVID. I have several of people that I'm acquainted with that have had their vaccine and still come down with COVID. So I think there's still a lot of precautions that we need to take, and putting a lot of people in that building is still putting people in danger. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, anybody else? Council Memard.
I'd just like to thank Patty Page for some of the input she's made on this particular issue in terms particularly of accessibility and ADA access to our meetings. City Hall, for better or for worse, it's a beautiful building, but it's challenging for many people to attend public meetings there, and the Zoom platform and operating remotely is clearly something that has a broad benefit in terms of audience participation and accessibility in many, many ways for our citizens to participate in the public process. It's been an interesting ride, but I think we've all learned from it. And you know, I look forward to the time we can be meeting in person again. But in the meantime, the Zoom platform that the city has helped promote and allow us to use now for better part of 13, 14 months since last February has been a remarkable technological vehicle for us to continue to meet and express our opinions and our concerns and have the public be a part of this process. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else like to speak on this matter? All right. So we'll keep going remotely until for another month or so, and then bring it up again. That's all. We'll just keep plugging away remotely and until we bring it back up and want to discuss this again and figure things out. Maybe things will be better in a month or two. Councilor McCarthy?
Steve, one thing, I mean, I've never been the host of a meeting, and question for you really, if if we're taking input both from live people, wherever the venue may be, and trying to take input via electronic, is that going to be difficult for you running a meeting?
I could do it. It would just be a matter of trying to get a pecking order. Like during the public hearing, people come in and they want to stand up and they want to speak. I have a pecking order here. Like right now, I got my attendees list, and I can go down, and once they raise their hand, they automatically come up to the top, and I'll go down the list. So it would be just a matter of a pecking order on, do I take a couple from the public that are in person, and then a couple from the online, you know what I mean? So it'd just be my discretion on how I want to do it. I wouldn't have a problem doing it. I mean, Joanne can tell you, she can see exactly what I do. And I wouldn't have a problem going live or, you know, if we had to do both, John, I wouldn't have a problem doing it.
Right, we did talk to Ryan about at BNF in the budget hearing about installing like hardware at the DS and you know, microphones and maybe cameras, so that you didn't have to be dependent on, you know, the laptop for the bulk of us, but you would have to still be using that. So he was looking into hardware and those issues too, he told us. So
yeah, like I said, I wouldn't have a problem doing it. It would just be a matter of me looking out into the audience, speaking to whoever's there, and then looking at whoever's online. So like I said, I'm not intimidated by it one bit. Councilor Gilman, I'm sorry.
Thank you for again allowing me to speak for the second time. So at the Essex North Shore Tech, of which I represent Gloucester, and Joe Marino is the director of IT, Gloucester's very own Joe Marino. We have been doing the hybrid model for about 4 months, and it's a combination of people listening in from home and people, most of us, probably 90% of us, being there in person. And I think some of the things you really do have to look at is the technology, because we always have a big screen on both sides of the room that we're in. And the big screen allows people that are there to also watch the clarity of the presentation there, as well as the people that are on the call. And Joe has offered to help us with whatever we needed, but I'm sure Ryan knows the same contacts that, you know, that are in the industry. But it's been a good process for us. And I've never been afraid of being in the room where we're in, because we're always quite cautious of how close we are to people. And but you've got to figure that out as well in our setups that we have. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Val. Anybody else? All right, Joanne, can we put this on a meeting, I don't know, end of July or something like that? We'll just bring it back up and see how it goes. And at one point, you know, we may end up having to go live again, maybe not this council, but, you know, a future council, but let's put it out there for discussion again and see what the flavor is of everybody. I do agree with what everybody said with the accessibility for outside people to be home and attend the meetings. I know that I would attend a lot more meetings if I was be able to do it remotely, rather than, you know, dragging my butt down to City Hall and lugging up the stairs and sitting. I'm sure it's very pleasant in that auditorium tonight while I'm sitting next to my air conditioner. I know, I'm sure we don't miss that, right, Sean, with the fans? So, all right, we'll bring it back up at a meeting at the end of July, and then we'll have another conversation. That'll give us 6 weeks, whatever it is, 8 weeks. All right, and then the next item on the agenda, Joanne, please.
It's discussion only for special events, and I just.
Yep, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay, so I just wanted to update the council that since the governor lifted the restrictions, the city has allowed for applicants to apply for special events. We've launched a new viewpoint, online viewpoint system, but we are still meeting in person. They're still requiring street closures. Last Thursday, we had 24 events on our agenda, and we approved 23 of them. One is going to be continued to our next meeting. We have some events that are being, that we have an online application that would need street closures before July. So we are going to put those events on the next city council agenda, and Councilor Gilman has agreed to do a special P&D so that we could go through the process to get these events approved and up and running for the month of July. That needs, and then the other events will be at our regular meeting at a July meeting. So I just wanted to update the council, and last year you requested that all events due to COVID would come to city council for vote. So I just want to make sure that you do not want to request that again, since the restrictions are lifted.
No, I don't think we need to do it since the ban's been lifted and everything's back to, was trying to get back to as normal as usual. When we did that, when we enacted that, it was more of gatherings of people, and there's no restrictions on gatherings, so I don't see why we would have to vote on certain things. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm sure, everybody else okay with it. Looks like everybody else is on board. So do we have to do it in a form of a motion at some point?
No, you just requested it. It was just a request. Council, you did not vote on it.
So yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, so the only thing I wanted to mention is because of the opening, we've had a marathon of applications, so we're trying to accommodate everyone, but we want to make sure it goes through the process. So that's why we're kind of like on the next meeting going to put things on we can approve the application through the SEAC online, but it would still have to go to P&D. So we're asking that applicants be patient, and we just want everybody to go through the process and have a fair process for everyone.
Thank you, Joanne.
Joanne?
And hold on a sec. And I know we were getting the emails for the applications or the agenda for the special events committee. Can we send those out? Because I know there's some councils that would like to attend if there's something going on in their ward, if they want to bring up an issue or ask questions. So anything moving forward, just want to send us the agenda to these special events meetings, so that way we can pick and choose which ones the board councilors or the at large would like to attend.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. Val?
Just to simplify things, Council Holgram and Pat, we were hoping for a special meeting on Wednesday, June 30th, just a short one to kind of pick up what comes off the consent agenda at the next meeting. And that way we'll be covered for events that have a street closure for that first week in July by having that extra meeting. If you can't attend, Jen, Barry and I can do it, just the two of us.
Thank you for going camping.
We can get an alternate, but I just think, that day is a good day because that's typically when we meet, and Joanne had brought that up as a possibility. So we can talk the details, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Thank you.
I've got it on my schedule, and I think Jen's going to be away camping if I'm not correct.
Yeah, and that'll give us enough time, Joanne, to post it, and we'll get you an alternate, Val.
Great, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome discussion, everyone. Appreciate that, and that's why we're a good council. We try to discuss everything together and make decisions together. So Joanne, can we have the next order of business, please?
It's council request to the mayor.
All right, so I am going to go right down the list from roll call. Council McCarthy.
I have none this evening. Thank you.
All right, Council Memard.
I just have one, bringing back the administration and the council, our recently enacted beach neighborhood non-resident parking regulations. Many of our residents in the neighborhoods of the beaches, especially with this good weather already, are very grateful and appreciative of our measure there. I am, however, getting feedback relating to some tweaking and adjustments, which is probably only natural in a process like this, and I'm sure others are as well, but specifically residents on St. Louis Avenue and on Edgemore Road, both of which are private roads, have asked for the resident-only designation to be removed in terms of signage in our ordinance. And we're also continuing to evaluate the advisability of non-resident parking on the northerly side of Farrington Avenue in terms of access to Niles Beach. So we're going to be working to perhaps tweak some of these recently enacted regulations to make sure they're consistent with the desire of the neighborhood and as effective as possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Councilor Nolan.
I have more of a thank you to the administration and the DPW. They did a great job on paving on Concord Street and Atlantic Street. They've widened it. It's made it much safer for cyclists. And I'm really appreciative. It was money well spent. And although people probably sat in traffic a little bit this weekend, at least they sat in traffic on a wide, safer road that emergency vehicles and bicyclists could still get by. And I can't thank the administration and the DPW enough for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Councilor O'Hara.
All set. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Councilor Pat.
Nothing for the administration, but just for everybody, just for info, if you're not able to get in touch with me in the next day or so, I go in the morning for my breathing implant at Mass General. So I may be out of touch for a day or two, but I'll be hopefully back and ready to go in like 36 hours or something like that.
All right. If you need anything, Barry, reach out, bud. So I'm sure anybody on here will give you a hand. Councilor Cox.
Nothing, thank you.
All right. I'm going to skip over Val because usually we go last. Councilor Holmgren.
Yes, no requests to the mayor, but two things. Both of our farmers markets are up and running. I'm so excited. Gloucester has two farmers markets. We're so lucky. So the Cape Ann Farmers Market is every Thursday from 3 to 6:30 at Harbor Loop. They accept EBT cards and SNAP. And Magnolia Farmers Market is on Lexington Avenue every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they also have a virtual market in case you don't want to be among people yet, or if you can't. So thanks.
All right. We skipped over Val. I don't even see her on here anymore. Oh, maybe she's on her phone. Hold on 1 second. Val, is this you? Val? I don't know if that's her or not. We have a caller with their hand up, so.
She has her hand up.
Yeah, I just promoted her to, let me see if I can. There's nothing else I can do. No. Ask to unmute. Let me check my phone real quick. Oh, Val, is this you?
Yes.
All right, there we go. What happened? We
I
lost
guess
you.
I froze up. I really have nothing to say except thank you, counselors, for tonight, and also to the mayor and her administration for all your support on particularly 11 Webster Street. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right.
And I froze.
That's fine. I figured it was you on the call. All right. Great job, everyone. I know we have some tough decisions that we do up here. Everybody did a great job tonight, and I don't have any requests to the mayor. Just kudos to the administration, the police department, the DPW, everything that they did over the weekend. I know the weather's been hot, traffic's been crazy, and everything else that's going to go on this summer. Before you know it, it'll be fall, and we'll be over the hump in a minute. So I'm not trying to move it faster than it is, but summertime in a village that is found, as the mayor would say, we've been found. Well, we've been found. We've got musicians coming here and making videos. Kenny Chesney made a video here last year, which is cool. And you know, Good old G-Town. So thank you, everybody, for this evening. Barry, if you need anything over the next couple of days, give me a call and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by everyone. All right, Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor
Second.
Memhard,
Yes, good night and good luck, Barry.
Counselor Nolan,
Yes, good night and good luck, Barry.
Counselor O'Hara,
you.
Yes. Prayers are with you, Barry.
Counselor Pat. Looks like Barry's froze. Counselor, oh, there you go, Counselor Pat,
Yes, thank you all.
Counselor Cox.
No,
We lost Melissa.
yes,
There you go. Counselor Gilman
Yes, and good luck, Barry.
and Counselor Holmgren.
Yes, and good luck, Barry. You got this.
Yep, and Counselor LeBlanc, yes, and best wishes, Barry. Like I said, definitely reach out and I'll bring you by a muffin, a coffee, a bagel, whatever you need, pal. All right, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you all.
Good night.